Meaningless numbers. And you dare call them evidence? Judge Raymond Collier's voice cut through the courtroom, cold and practiced. He looked down at Maya William, as if she had wandered into a room where she did not belong. Maya stood in the center aisle, with an old laptop held against her chest. "Your Honor," she said, "I'm not here to defend the defendant's money. I'm here to identify the account of the man running a transnational laundering network, and that account is being accessed from inside this courtroom right now." For a moment, no one moved. Judge Collier struck the gavel once. "Miss William, let me remind you where you are. This is a court of law, not a town meeting, not a television interview, and certainly not a stage for conspiracy theories. Every accusation you have made so far is nothing more than numbers on a screen. Meaningless numbers, unless they are supported by a clear legal foundation. And as of this moment, you have provided none." He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "So, do not waste this court's time." Maya drew a slow breath. "Then, allow me to provide the foundation." "No," he snapped. "You will remain silent until this court permits you to speak." Maya closed her mouth. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that made people afraid to shift in their seats. Judge Collier turned toward the defendant's table. "Mrs. Carter, since Miss Williams seems determined to turn your trial into a spectacle, I will give you one final opportunity to speak for yourself. Carefully. Do you understand?" Denise Carter rose slowly. Her hands trembled as she held the edge of the table. "Yes, Your Honor. Did you or did you not allow illegal funds to pass through your personal bank account?" Denise swallowed. "I didn't know they were illegal. That was not my question." "I know, sir. But that is the truth." Judge Collier's face hardened. "The truth is not whatever helps you sleep at night, Mrs. Carter. The truth is what the evidence proves." Denise looked toward the jury, then back at the judge. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. "I have 2 boys. I work nights. I clean hospital rooms, change sheets, take blood pressure, and help old people get to the bathroom when nobody comes fast enough. I took that online job because my youngest needed medicine, and I was behind on rent. They told me I was processing invoices." The prosecutor shifted in his chair. Judge Collier tapped his pen once against the bench. "So your defense is that you moved money without understanding where it came from." "My defense is that somebody used me." "Convenient." Denise's voice cracked, but she did not sit down. "No, sir. Nothing about this is convenient. My children watched officers take me out of our apartment. My mother had to tell them I wasn't coming home. I haven't slept in my own bed in 3 nights. There is nothing convenient about being poor enough for people to believe the worst about you." A murmur moved through the courtroom. Judge Collier struck the gavel again. "Enough." Denise looked at Maya. For one brief moment, the 2 women held each other's gaze. Maya saw fear there, but she saw something else too. A woman refusing to vanish quietly. Judge Collier said, "Mrs. Carter, unless you can produce legal proof that these transfers were forced, fabricated, or manipulated, your emotions do not change the record." Denise whispered, "I don't have proof." The judge leaned back. "Then sit down." Maya spoke before Denise could move. "She has proof, Your Honor." Judge Collier turned his head slowly. "I told you to remain silent." "And I did, while the defendant answered," Maya said. "She has now answered. Do not play games with this court." "I'm not playing games," Maya said. "I'm ending one." The room stirred again. Judge Collier's mouth tightened. "Miss William, this court does not convict or acquit based on personal suspicion. It relies on admissible evidence, certified records, sworn testimony, and legally verified documentation. If all you have is a list of transactions you claim to have interpreted, then you have nothing. Numbers can be arranged to tell any story." Maya's expression remained calm. "That is true, Your Honor," she said. "Which is why I brought records that do not need arranging." The room grew still. Denise remained standing, one hand still braced on the table. Behind her, Alberta Carter clutched a white handkerchief in both hands, her lips moving in a silent prayer. She looked as if she wanted to rise beside her daughter, but fear and age held her in place. Maya walked to the evidence table and opened her laptop. The hinge gave a small, tired creak. Someone in the back let out a short laugh, but it faded before it became anything. Maya connected the laptop to the courtroom screen. Rows of transaction data appeared. "For the record," Maya said, "my name is Maya William. I am a forensic financial auditor specializing in money laundering structures, concealed asset corridors, and judicial corruption patterns. I was asked to review the charges against Denise Carter. What I found was not a guilty mother. What I found was a machine built to make innocent people look guilty." The screen changed. A single name appeared. The scale. Judge Collier's eyes flickered. Only once, but Maya saw it. "This account," Maya said, "has received $500,000 after every fast-track financial conviction in this courtroom over the last 7 years. The clerk stopped typing. A juror lowered her pen. The bailiff looked from Maya to the judge. Judge Collier leaned forward. "Again, Miss William, these are numbers. Serious-looking numbers, perhaps, but without legal certification, they are still meaningless. You cannot drag this court into scandal because a spreadsheet offended your imagination." Maya met his eyes. "I agree completely, Your Honor. That is why every transaction on this screen is paired with a certified bank confirmation, a federal subpoena return, and a digital authentication seal from the Financial Crimes Evidence Registry." Judge Collier's mouth tightened. Maya clicked again. Dates appeared, followed by case numbers, conviction times, and transfer confirmations. Every line matched a ruling from Judge Collier's courtroom. Denise began to cry silently. Maya did not look away from the bench. Judge Collier's confidence shifted. Not much, just enough. His hand moved toward the edge of the bench, toward the phone hidden beneath it. Maya saw the movement. She had come here for that exact moment. 2 nights earlier, Denise's public defender, Aaron Pike, had told Maya the case was already slipping away. "They're going to bury her," he had said. "Maybe by Friday." Maya had reviewed the file and seen the problem almost immediately. Denise's financial trail was too perfect. Real crime usually left uneven edges. Greed, panic, timing errors, careless repetition. This file had none of that. It had been arranged. "She didn't build this," Maya had said. "No," Aaron replied. "They built it around her." Then Maya saw Collier's name. That was when the case stopped being only about Denise. Years earlier, Maya's father had been accused in a financial fraud case he did not understand and could not afford to fight. Someone had used his credentials. Someone had moved money through his name. Someone powerful had needed a quiet black man to carry the blame. He died in prison before the truth came out. The letter clearing him arrived too late to matter to anyone except the daughter he left behind. Since then, Maya had spent her life learning how lies hide inside numbers. Now she stood before a judge who had made a habit of burying people under those lies. Judge Collier's voice hardened. "Miss William, this court will not allow a witness to make reckless accusations against the bench. You have been warned. If you continue without an acceptable legal basis, I will hold you in contempt." "This is not reckless," Maya said. "It is arithmetic. And arithmetic becomes evidence when every figure has a source. Every source has a seal. And every seal points to the same man." She pressed another key. A new chart appeared. "This is Denise Carter's account," Maya said. Money entered her account at 9:14 a.m. on March 6. It left at 9:22. 8 minutes later, it passed through a Delaware shell company. 11 minutes after that, it moved through an offshore clearing node. By 10:03, it had been split into 4 smaller transfers. None of them benefited Denise Carter. The prosecutor stood halfway. "Objection. This was not included in the original discovery packet." Maya turned slightly. Because the original packet stopped exactly where the frame-up needed it to stop. The room stirred again. Judge Collier hit the gavel. "Order," Maya continued before the silence fully returned. Denise Carter did not launder money. Her account was used as a disposable corridor. Her poverty made her useful. Her race made her easy to dismiss. Her fear made her easier to silence. Denise closed her eyes. Alberta Carter whispered, "Lord, have mercy." Judge Collier's hand moved again. Maya clicked one final time. The screen shifted to a live access log. A red marker blinked beside one active session. Maya's voice dropped, calm and clear. And while we have been speaking, the scale has been accessed again. Judge Collier went still. Maya looked directly at him. The login came from inside this courtroom. No one breathed. The old laptop hummed softly on the evidence table. Maya placed one hand beside it and said, "Now, Your Honor, let's talk about where the money really went." Judge Collier did not answer at first. He sat above the room with his right hand still near the edge of the bench, his fingers slightly bent, as if he had been reaching for something and had forgotten how hands worked. For years, his silence had made people nervous. Attorneys filled it, defendants broke under it. Witnesses rushed to explain themselves, and usually said too much. But this silence was different. This one did not belong to him anymore. Maya let it remain. She had learned long ago that truth did not need to shout when the lie had already started sweating. The red marker continued blinking on the courtroom screen. Active session. Location: courtroom 6B. Device proximity: judicial bench. Denise Carter stared at the screen, tears still running down her face, but she made no sound. Her mother, Alberta, pressed the handkerchief to her lips. In the jury box, a gray-haired man in a brown suit slowly removed his reading glasses and looked at Judge Collier as if seeing him for the first time. The prosecutor, Martin Keller, stood halfway from his chair. He was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s with a clean haircut and the careful posture of someone who had spent a career believing in procedure. He looked at Maya, then at the judge, then back at the screen. Until that moment, he had been prosecuting Denise Carter with the certainty of a man carrying a file prepared by people he trusted. Now that certainty had begun to crack. "Your Honor," Keller said slowly, "the state requests a brief recess to review the material Miss William has presented." Judge Collier turned on him so sharply that Keller stopped speaking. "No," the judge said. The word was flat. Maya noticed Keller's jaw tighten. Judge Collier lifted the gavel, but did not strike it. "This court will not be hijacked by dramatic accusations presented through an unauthorized display. Miss William, disconnect your device immediately." Maya did not move. "Miss William," he said. "That was not a suggestion." "No, Your Honor," Maya said. "It was an order. But before I comply, I need the record to reflect that the active login remains live. The record will reflect what I permit it to reflect." Maya looked at the court reporter. The woman's fingers hovered over the stenotype machine, uncertain for only a moment before they continued moving. Maya said, "The court reporter is already recording it." Judge Collier's eyes narrowed. "You are testing the limits of this court." "No, sir," Maya said. "I am testing the limits of a lie." A sound moved through the room, low and frightened. Not approval. Not yet. People were still too afraid of the robe, the bench, the seal on the wall. All the symbols that told ordinary citizens they were small. But something had shifted. The room had started to understand that the symbols were not the same as justice. Judge Collier turned toward the bailiff. "Remove her." The bailiff, Deputy Harris, did not step forward. He was an older man with a square build and silver at his temples. He had served in courtrooms for 27 years. He had seen rage, grief, arrogance, panic, and every kind of lie a person could carry into a room. He looked at Maya's screen, then at the judge's hand near the bench, then at Denise Carter's trembling face. "Deputy," Judge Collier said, his voice colder now. Deputy Harris took one step, but it was not toward Maya. It was toward the bench. "Your Honor," he said carefully, "for safety and chain of custody reasons, I believe the device under the bench should be secured." The room went completely still. Judge Collier's face darkened. "You believe?" "Yes, sir. I gave you an order, and I heard it," Harris said. "But I also heard a witness identify an active financial account being accessed from the bench. I cannot ignore that." For one brief second, Collier's mask slipped. It was not fear exactly. It was anger at being disobeyed by someone he had never considered important enough to fear. Maya watched him closely. His left thumb pressed against his index finger. A nervous habit. She had seen it in surveillance footage from a disciplinary hearing 3 years earlier, when a defense attorney had asked too many questions about missing digital filings. Keller stepped away from the prosecutor's table. "Your Honor," I must join the request to secure the device. If there is any possibility of relevant evidence, it should be preserved. Judge Collier stared at him. Mr. Keller, you are very close to forgetting your role here. Keller's face flushed, but he did not sit down. My role is not to protect a conviction. It is to seek justice. For the first time all morning, Denise Carter made a sound. It was small, almost a sob, but it reached Maya like a hand. If this moment touched your heart, please take a second to like this video. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because your voice matters here. And if you believe stories of truth, courage, and justice deserve to be heard, subscribe to the channel and join us for the next one. Judge Collier lifted the gavel and brought it down hard. Order. This court is in recess for 15 minutes. No, Maya said. The word was not loud, but it struck the room harder than the gavel. Judge Collier looked at her with open disbelief. Excuse me? Maya placed both hands on the evidence table. If this court recesses now, the active session may be terminated, the device may lock, and remote destruction protocols may be triggered. The legal foundation you requested depends on preserving what is happening in real time. You do not instruct this court. I'm not instructing the court. I'm warning it. The red marker on the screen blinked again, then another line appeared beneath it. Secondary authentication attempt detected. Maya's eyes moved to the screen. There it is. Judge Collier's hand jerked slightly. Maya clicked a key. The display expanded, showing a string of numbers, timestamps, encrypted routing notes, and a two-factor authentication request. She spoke clearly so everyone could follow. At 10:42 a.m., while this proceeding was active, the account known as The Scale received a login request from a secure mobile device. At 10:43, the device attempted secondary authentication. That means whoever is holding that phone is not merely near the account. They are trying to regain administrative control of it. Keller stared at the data. Can you identify the device? Maya did not answer him immediately. She looked at Judge Collier. Yes, she said. Collier's lips thinned. You will not continue. Maya clicked again. The screen changed to a device registration panel. Most of the number was masked, but the final 4 digits were visible. Tisa Joe. A low whisper passed through the room. Deputy Harris looked toward the bench. Your Honor, I need you to place both hands where I can see them. Judge Collier slowly turned his head. Have you lost your mind? No, sir, Harris said, and his voice was steady now. I'm asking you to place both hands where I can see them. For a moment, no one moved. Then Judge Collier raised his right hand and set it on top of the bench. His left hand stayed low. Maya said, Both hands, Your Honor. There was no respect in the silence that followed. Only recognition. Judge Collier lifted his left hand. Under the bench, something vibrated. Once, then again. The sound was faint, but in that room, it might as well have been thunder. Deputy Harris stepped behind the bench and reached down. Collier leaned back as if the space around him had become dangerous. Harris retrieved a black smartphone from a concealed ledge beneath the writing surface. The screen was still lit. He looked at it. Then he looked at Maya. The last 4 digits, Harris said, are 7149. Denise covered her mouth with both hands. Alberta Carter whispered, Jesus. Keller shut his eyes for half a second, as if the weight of what he had nearly done to an innocent woman had just landed on him. Maya's voice softened, but only slightly. Please place the device in evidence mode and do not touch the screen. The session is still active. Deputy Harris held it carefully, like a thing that could burn him. Judge Collier stood suddenly. This is outrageous. I am the presiding judge in this courtroom, and I will not be treated like a criminal based on staged theatrics from a woman with a broken laptop. Maya looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, A broken laptop found what a polished courtroom tried to bury. No one laughed now. Judge Collier's breathing grew heavier. He turned toward the side door behind the bench. The private door judges used when they did not wish to pass through ordinary people. But Deputy Harris had already moved between him and the exit. Sit down, Your Honor, Harris said. The words changed the air. The judge heard it too. Not the words themselves, but what they meant. The room was no longer obeying him automatically. Maya looked at Denise Carter. Denise was still standing. Still crying. Still not free. Not yet. Maya knew this was only the first door opening. Behind it would be more doors, more names, more accounts, more people who had turned law into a marketplace, and poor defendants into receipts. But every collapse began with one crack, and this one had just appeared in open court. Maya turned back to the screen and clicked once more. The active session expanded into a map of linked transfers, spreading across the display like veins beneath thin skin. "Now," she said, her voice steady enough to carry to the very last row. "We are going to follow the money in the order it moved. And when we are done, everyone in this courtroom will understand why Denise Carter was chosen, who chose her, and why Judge Collier needed her convicted before noon." The map on the screen began with Denise Carter's checking account. It was a small square at the far left, labeled with the last 4 digits of an account she had opened 12 years earlier at a neighborhood credit union. Beside it were 3 incoming deposits, each dressed up as payment for invoice processing. The names looked ordinary enough: Northline Freight Solutions, Harbor Point Medical Supply, Eastgate, Vendor Services. Companies with clean logos, working phone numbers, and websites polished enough to calm suspicion. Maya pointed to the first square. This is where they wanted the story to begin. Judge Collier sat stiffly behind the bench, his hands now visible on the polished wood. Deputy Harris remained a few steps away, holding the judge's phone inside a clear evidence sleeve. The screen had gone dim but not dark. It was still alive, still connected, still dangerous. Maya continued. "The prosecution's file follows the money from these companies into Denise Carter's account, then out again. That is where the original report stops. On paper, that makes Mrs. Carter look like the middle of the crime. But she was never the middle. She was the hallway." The prosecutor, Martin Keller, looked at the screen with a face that had lost its earlier certainty. "Explain that." Maya nodded once. "A hallway is not where people live. It is where they pass through." The money touched her account only long enough to create a record against her. 7 minutes here, 8 minutes there, 11 at most. Then it moved out through pre-programmed instructions she did not create. Keller stepped closer to the display. "How do you know she didn't create them?" "Because the transfer scripts were written in a banking automation format that Mrs. Carter's consumer account did not support. They were injected through an administrative override from outside her login environment." The clerk stopped typing for half a second, then hurried to catch up. Judge Collier said, "That is a conclusion. It is a technical finding," Maya replied, "and it is supported by the metadata." He gave a short, bitter laugh. More numbers. Maya did not look away from the screen. "No, Your Honor." Signatures. She clicked the trackpad. The map shifted, and beneath Denise's account appeared lines of code, timestamps, access tokens, and device identifiers. Maya enlarged one entry. "This is the first outgoing transfer," she said. The government file listed it as a user-authorized transaction. That was false. The transaction was pushed through a remote session using a credential token tied to a banking compliance administrator. "Not Denise Carter." Keller frowned. "A bank employee? Not directly. A stolen credential routed through one." The juror in the brown suit leaned forward. Maya highlighted the next line. "The same token appears in 6 prior cases handled in this courtroom. In each one, the defendant was poor, had limited legal representation, and was accused of moving money they did not understand. In each one, the case was resolved quickly. In each one, the final transfer chain led back to the scale." Denise's knees weakened, and Aaron Pike reached for her elbow. "Sit down, Denise," he whispered. She shook her head. "No, I want to hear it standing." Her voice was soft, but everyone heard her. Maya glanced at her, and something in Maya's expression changed. Not enough to break her composure, but enough to show she understood what that sentence cost. Denise had been seated for days while people measured her life like an account balance. Now she wanted to stand while the lie was taken apart. Maya clicked again. A second path appeared on the screen. This one moving from Denise's account to a Delaware company called Marshland Advisory Group. "This entity received the funds at 9:22 a.m., Maya said. "Its listed business address is a rented mailbox in Wilmington. It has no employees, no payroll, no utility records, and no operating history beyond receiving money from defendants later convicted in financial crime cases. Keller's voice dropped. Shell company. Yes. Who registered it? Maya brought up the filing record. A corporate services firm, acting on behalf of an attorney-client trust. Judge Collier shifted in his chair. Maya saw it. So did Keller. The prosecutor looked at the registration line. Name? Whitcomb Legal Holdings. A woman in the gallery whispered, "Oh my God." Keller turned slowly toward the defense table, then toward the judge. Whitcomb Legal Holdings appeared in the discovery index. Yes, Maya said. As a consulting vendor that allegedly flagged Denise Carter's transfers to investigators. Aaron Pike looked up sharply. They reported the suspicious activity? They reported the activity they helped create. Denise closed her eyes. For a moment, Maya could see the shape of the trap, as everyone else began to see it. A fake job offer, a mother behind on bills, deposits routed through her account, a shell company waiting downstream, a consulting firm that manufactured suspicion, then reported it. Prosecutors handed a clean file. A judge prepared to rush the conviction. And somewhere above them, the scale collecting its fee. Maya clicked again. The map moved from Delaware to an offshore clearing node, then to 4 smaller accounts. By 10:03 a.m., the funds were divided, she said. 20% moved to operational accounts tied to the laundering network. 30% disappeared into foreign-held securities. The remaining half moved toward the scale. Keller stepped back. $500,000. Exactly. Judge Collier's voice returned, rougher now. Miss William, you are making claims about international accounts without establishing how you gained access to these records. Maya turned toward him. Through a federal subpoena return, a sealed cooperation order, and a mutual assistance request approved by the Department of Justice. The courtroom stirred. Judge Collier's face tightened. This is the first I am hearing of a sealed federal process attached to my courtroom. That is correct. You expect me to believe the federal government has been investigating this court without notification? Maya looked at him calmly. No, Your Honor. I expect you to understand why. The words landed quietly. That made them worse. Keller rubbed a hand over his mouth. Miss William, are you saying this prosecution was used as bait? Aaron Pike stood. Careful, counselor. My client is not bait. She is a human being whose life was almost destroyed. Keller turned to him. For the first time, there was no argument in his face. Only shame. You're right, he said. I apologize. Denise looked at him. Stunned by the words, Maya spoke before the room could sink too deeply into the moment. Mrs. Carter was not bait. She was the intended sacrifice. The investigation did not create that. It intercepted it. Judge Collier struck the gavel, but the sound had lost much of its old authority. This court will not sit here and be accused by implication. Maya's eyes returned to him. There is no implication left. She pressed another key. A new window opened. It showed 9 rows, each with a case number, defendant name, sentencing date, and post-conviction transfer. At the far right was a column labeled Judicial Action Window. Keller read the first line under his breath. United States, v. Maribel Santos. Maya nodded. A housekeeper accused of laundering money through a prepaid payroll card. Aaron read another. State, v. Calvin Reed. A retired mechanic, Maya said. He thought he was helping his nephew process equipment sales. The juror in the brown suit spoke before he could stop himself. I remember that case. It was in the paper. Judge Collier turned sharply toward the jury box. Juror number 6, you will not speak. The man lowered his eyes, but he did not look sorry. He looked disturbed. Maya continued. In each case, the defendant's account was used briefly. In each case, the downstream recipient was connected to Marshland Advisory, or one of its sister entities. In each case, within 24 hours of conviction, the scale received $500,000. She looked toward Denise. Your case was scheduled to be the 10th. Denise whispered, Why me? That question seemed to pass through the entire courtroom before it reached Maya. Maya answered gently, Because you needed money. Because you answered the wrong job ad. Because the people who chose you believed no one would look past your bank statement. They counted on your exhaustion. They counted on your fear. They counted on the world seeing a poor black mother and thinking the story had already explained itself. Alberta Carter began to weep quietly. Denise did not. She looked at the screen with a grief too deep for tears. They knew about my boys? Maya hesitated. That was answer enough. Denise's face folded, but only for a second. Then she straightened. Judge Collier said, "This emotional display has no bearing on admissibility." Maya turned back toward him, and this time her voice changed. It did not grow louder. It grew colder. Justice without compassion is just paperwork with a seal. No one spoke. The red marker on the live access log blinked again. Then the screen flashed. Unauthorized deletion request detected. Deputy Harris looked down at the phone in his evidence sleeve. I didn't touch it. Maya moved fast. Her fingers flew across the old laptop's keyboard. You didn't. The request came remotely. Keller stepped toward her. From where? Maya's jaw tightened. From the emergency recovery protocol attached to the scale. Someone outside this room knows the account is exposed. Judge Collier's shoulders lowered a fraction, almost in relief. Maya noticed that too. She opened another panel. But the protocol requires judicial confirmation from the registered control device. Deputy Harris lifted the evidence bag slightly. This one? Yes. Judge Collier stood. I will not allow this circus to continue. Maya looked at the screen. A countdown appeared. 30 seconds. 29. 28. Keller's voice sharpened. What happens when that reaches 0? Maya did not look away from the laptop. If the confirmation is not blocked, the account burns its own records. Aaron Pike said, Can you stop it? Maya's fingers kept moving. I already did once. The countdown reached 20. Judge Collier stepped back from the bench. This court is adjourned. Deputy Harris moved closer. No, sir. It isn't. The countdown reached 15. Maya entered a command. The old laptop hummed louder. 10, 9, 8. On the screen, a final prompt appeared. Control device required. Maya looked at Deputy Harris. Hold the phone up. Do not unlock it. He did. The phone vibrated inside the clear sleeve, its screen lighting with a biometric request. Quote, Maya said. There's the legal foundation, Your Honor. The countdown stopped at 3. Then the screen changed. Remote deletion blocked. Evidence mirror completed. The courtroom exhaled all at once. Maya leaned back from the laptop, just slightly. Her hands were steady, but inside, something old and wounded had begun to tremble. She thought of her father, of the envelope that came too late, of all the lives that had been filed away under guilty because someone powerful needed clean numbers. Not this time. Daddy, not this time. She looked up at Judge Collier. The money trail is preserved, she said. And now we can see the names behind it. Judge Collier's face had gone pale. On the screen, beneath the scale, a new folder opened by itself as the mirrored evidence completed its extraction. Beneficial owner records. Maya stared at the first name. So did everyone else. Raymond Collier. The courtroom fell into a silence so complete that even the old laptop seemed to stop humming. Raymond Collier. The name did not move. It stayed there on the screen in plain black letters, cruel in its simplicity. For a man like Judge Collier, who had hidden behind seals, passwords, robes, and procedure, the final exposure came without decoration. No argument, no speech, just his own name, sitting beneath a stolen fortune. No one in courtroom 6B spoke. Maya Williams stood beside the evidence table, one hand resting near the keyboard of her old laptop. She had imagined this moment for months, but imagination had not prepared her for the stillness of it. The room seemed to have been hollowed out. Even the air felt careful. Denise Carter stared at the screen. Her lips parted slightly, as if her mind had not yet accepted that the name above her life's ruin belonged to the man who had been judging her. Martin Keller, the prosecutor, stepped closer to the display. His face had gone gray. That cannot be a coincidence, Aaron Pike said quietly. Maya looked at him. It isn't. Judge Collier rose from his chair. Slowly at first, then with sudden force. This is fabricated. His voice cracked on the last word. That crack did more damage than the accusation. For 3 days, he had spoken like a man carved from stone. Now he sounded like any other defendant whose lie had been cornered. Maya turned toward him. The ownership file was mirrored directly from the account's emergency recovery archive. It includes the beneficial owner record, authentication history, linked device registry, recovery phrases, and transaction approvals. Collier pointed at the screen. Anyone can type a name. Yes, Maya said, but not anyone can match that name to your judicial pension routing number, your private trust address in Savannah, and the encrypted device token currently sitting inside Deputy Harris's evidence sleeve. Deputy Harris looked down at the phone as though it had grown heavier in his hand. Martin Keller swallowed. Miss William, are you stating under oath that the phone recovered from the bench is connected to the scale? I am. Can you prove that independently of the display? Yes. Judge Collier slammed his palm against the bench. Mr. Keller, you are not examining this witness. Keller did not turn around. No, Your Honor. I am trying to understand whether I have spent 3 days prosecuting an innocent woman, while the real target sat above us. The words landed hard. Denise closed her eyes. For a moment, she looked as if she might fall, but she remained standing. Her shoulders shook once. Then she steadied herself. Judge Collier's face twisted. You forget yourself. Keller finally looked at him. I think that is exactly what I did. The courtroom stirred, but softly, almost respectfully. People were watching a man revise himself in public, and there was something painful about it. Keller had not been the architect of the trap, but he had carried the file into court. He had asked the questions. He had pointed to Denise's account and called it guilt. In that room, under those lights, his regret had nowhere to hide. Maya clicked once, and another panel opened beside Collier's name. Let's keep going, she said. The screen showed a list of transfers from the scale to different asset shelters. One line pulsed in blue. Maya pointed to it. This is the most recent pending disbursement, $500,000, scheduled to clear at 12:15 p.m. today. Aaron Pike looked at the courtroom clock. After the expected conviction. Yes. Denise's voice came out small. My conviction. Maya turned to her. Yes, Mrs. Carter. Denise pressed both hands against the table. So they knew. Before I ever came in here today, they knew how this was supposed to end. Maya's voice softened. They were counting on it. Alberta Carter stood suddenly behind her daughter. She was older, thin, and shaking, but she stood with the force of someone whose grief had found its legs. My child was never a case to him, Alberta said. She was a paycheck. Judge Collier snapped. Madam, sit down. Alberta looked at him, and the fear that had held her all morning seemed to burn off her face. No, sir. I sat down when they took my daughter. I sat down when they called her a criminal. I sat down while you looked at her like she was dirt under your shoe. I am done sitting. No one told her to stop, not even the bailiff. Judge Collier grabbed the gavel again. I will clear this courtroom. Maya stepped forward. If you clear this courtroom, the mirrored evidence continues uploading to the federal server. If you shut off the screen, it continues. If you order me removed, it continues. If anyone touches that phone, it triggers a preservation lock. This is not a performance, Your Honor. It is a containment operation. That phrase changed the temperature of the room. Containment operation. Keller heard it. Aaron heard it. Deputy Harris heard it. Judge Collier heard it most of all. His eyes moved toward the jury box. Maya followed his gaze. The jurors had been silent since the first evidence appeared. Too silent, perhaps. Not confused. Not shocked in the ordinary way. They watched with a stillness that now seemed deliberate. Judge Collier noticed it too. His voice lowered. What is this? Maya did not answer. Instead, juror number 6, the gray-haired man in the brown suit, removed his glasses and stood. Your Honor, he said, my name is Daniel Reeves. I am not a juror. A woman beside him stood next. Assistant U.S. Attorney Helen Morris, then another. Special Agent Luis Alvarez, Federal Bureau of Investigation. One by one, the people in the jury box rose and identified themselves. Federal prosecutors. financial crimes, investigators, digital evidence specialists, a deputy marshal, an inspector from the Treasury Department. They had sat there all morning with notebooks and calm faces, playing the part of citizens chosen for service, while Judge Raymond Collier prepared to bury another innocent defendant. Denise stared at them, stunned. Aaron Pike whispered, "My God." Keller took a step back, his face hardening with the shame of a man who realized he had been the only prosecutor in the room not told the full truth. Maya turned toward him. "Mr. Keller, your office was not briefed because the leak was believed to be inside the judicial pipeline. Your case file was allowed to proceed because stopping it too early would have warned the network." Keller looked at Denise. "And Mrs. Carter?" "She was placed under protective monitoring the moment we confirmed her account was being used. Her arrest remained public because the network needed to believe the frame was intact." Denise's face tightened with pain. "You let my children watch me get arrested?" Maya absorbed the question, without defending herself too quickly. "Yes," she said quietly, "and I am sorry for that. Truly, the decision saved the operation, but that does not mean it did not hurt you. Both things can be true." Denise looked away. That was fair. Some apologies did not deserve acceptance on the first offering. Judge Collier stepped down from the bench. "This is illegal. This entire proceeding is illegal." Helen Morris, the woman who had stood from the jury box, moved into the aisle. She was in her late 50s, with short gray hair and a voice that carried the calm of long experience. "No, Judge Collier," she said. "This proceeding was authorized under seal by the chief judge of the district, after probable cause was established that a sitting judicial officer was using active criminal proceedings to facilitate money laundering, obstruction, and wrongful convictions." Collier stared at her. "You people set me up." "No," Maya said. "You logged in." The old laptop gave a soft notification tone. Maya looked at the screen. "Evidence package delivered. Federal server receipt confirmed." A small breath left her body before she could stop it. The first part was done. Judge Collier saw the message too. Something in his face changed. Until then, he had been angry, cornered, humiliated. Now he looked afraid, not of Maya, of the people behind the doors he could no longer control. At the back of the courtroom, two men in dark suits stood. They had been sitting apart, pretending not to know each other. One moved to the main doors. The other moved toward the side exit behind the bench. Deputy Harris remained near the judge with the sealed phone. Helen Morris took a folded document from her jacket. "Raymond Ellis Collier," she said. "A federal warrant has been issued for your arrest." The room seemed to lean toward the words. Collier took one step back. "I am a sitting judge. You are a criminal defendant," Helen said. His eyes flashed toward the side door. Maya saw the calculation before his body moved. So did Deputy Harris. "Don't," Harris said. Collier moved anyway. He lunged toward the side exit. Not with dignity, not with the authority he had worn all morning, but with the raw panic of a man whose whole life had narrowed to a door. Deputy Harris caught him before he reached the first step. The two men struggled for only a moment. Collier was not young, but desperation gave him strength. His robe twisted around his legs. The gavel fell from the bench and hit the floor with a dull wooden crack. That sound stopped Denise's crying. Everyone heard it. The gavel, the thing he had used to silence people, lay on the floor between the bench and the evidence table. Deputy Harris turned Collier around and forced his hands behind his back. A deputy marshal from the jury box stepped forward with cuffs. Collier's face was red now. "This is a disgrace." Maya looked at him. "Yes, it is." The cuffs closed, metal against bone. A small sound, but final. Alberta Carter began to sob openly, not with fear now, but with release. Denise turned toward her mother, and Alberta came around the rail as far as she was allowed, reaching out with both hands. Aaron Pike put a steadying hand on Denise's shoulder. Keller stood alone at the prosecutor's table, looking at the file he had trusted. Then, he closed it. Helen Morris faced the room. "Denise Carter is not under arrest. The charges against her will be dismissed pending formal filing. She is a cooperating victim and witness in a federal investigation." Denise looked at Maya. "So I can go home?" Maya's throat tightened. Yes, she said. You can go home. Denise made a sound then that was not quite a cry and not quite a laugh. It came from somewhere deeper than both. Alberta reached farther over the rail, and Denise stepped into her mother's arms as much as the courtroom allowed. Maya watched them, and for one dangerous second, her own composure nearly broke. She thought of Leonard William, of a man who never got this moment. No federal agents opening the doors, no one in authority saying he could go home, no one stopping the lie before it swallowed him. Her father had received justice in an envelope. Denise received it while she was still breathing. That mattered. Judge Collier, cuffed now, turned his head toward Maya as the marshal took hold of his arm. You think this makes you righteous? Maya met his eyes. No, she said. It makes her free. Collier had no answer for that. As they led him past the evidence table, his gaze dropped to Maya's old laptop. The cracked hinge, the worn keys, the machine he had mocked before it stripped him bare. Maya closed the lid gently. The courtroom remained quiet as Judge Raymond Collier was escorted toward the same doors through which defendants had been taken for years. Only this time, the man leaving in cuffs was the one who had believed the bench made him untouchable. When the doors opened, no one laughed, no one clapped. The silence was better than that. It was the sound of people understanding that power had finally been made to answer. Maya looked toward Denise and Alberta, still holding one another near the defense table, and then down at the fallen gavel on the floor. For a moment, nobody picked it up, and maybe that was right. Some symbols needed to lie where they fell before anyone had the right to lift them again. For several seconds after Judge Raymond Collier was taken out, Courtroom 6B did not know what to become. It had been a place of accusation when the morning began. Then, it became a trap. Then a confession without words. Now it sat in the strange quiet that follows when authority collapses and ordinary people are left staring at the pieces. The gavel still lay on the floor. No one touched it. Denise Carter held her mother as tightly as the rail allowed. Alberta's hands moved over her daughter's shoulders, her back, her face, as if she needed to confirm with her fingers that Denise was still there, still whole, still close enough to save. Denise's own hands clutched the sleeves of her mother's blue church dress. I'm going home, Denise whispered. Alberta pulled back just enough to look at her. You heard the lady. But my boys, we'll call them. Denise shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. No, I want to tell them in person. Maya Williams stood a few feet away, her laptop closed beneath one hand. The room had begun to move again, but carefully. Federal agents spoke in low voices. Helen Morris gave instructions near the jury box. Deputy Harris sealed Judge Collier's phone into a second evidence container. Martin Keller remained at the prosecutor's table, staring at the case folder as if it had become a stranger. Aaron Pike touched Denise's arm gently. Denise, we still need to complete a few things before you leave. It won't be long. She looked at him, exhausted and suspicious in the way innocent people become after the system has handled them too roughly. Am I still charged? Helen Morris heard the question and came closer. No, Mrs. Carter. The formal dismissal will be filed today. You are not being treated as a defendant anymore. Denise looked from Helen to Maya. Then what am I? Maya answered before anyone else could. A woman who was telling the truth. The words struck Denise harder than the arrest being lifted. For 3 days, people had called her defendant, suspect, account holder, subject, participant. No one had simply called her truthful. She covered her mouth and turned into her mother's shoulder. Martin Keller closed the folder at last. The sound was small, but Maya heard it. He came around the table slowly, not with the confidence of a prosecutor approaching a witness, but with the careful steps of a man walking toward damage he had helped create. Mrs. Carter, he said. Denise stiffened. Alberta's eyes sharpened. What do you want? Keller stopped at a respectful distance. I owe you an apology. Alberta gave a bitter little laugh. An apology? Yes, ma'am. You stood right there and called my daughter a criminal. Keller nodded. I did. You asked her if she cared more about money than her children. His face tightened. I did. You looked at those papers and never once thought maybe the papers were lying. Keller had no defense for that. He looked at Denise. I trusted a file because it was neat. Because it came stamped and indexed and handed to me through the right channels. That is not an excuse. I was wrong. Denise wiped her face with the heel of her hand. Wrong almost took my life. I know. No, she said. Not loudly but firmly. You don't. You get to be wrong and go back to your office. I was going to prison. Keller looked down. Maya watched him absorb it. Some men apologized to free themselves. Keller did not look free. That was something, though not enough. Helen Morris stepped in gently. Mrs. Carter, no apology can repair what happened today. There will be a victim, witness advocate, assigned to you before you leave. Emergency housing support if you need it. Counseling. Protection. And we will notify your employer immediately that your absence was caused by a wrongful federal action connected to an ongoing investigation. Denise gave a tired smile with no joy in it. That's a lot of official words. Helen nodded. It is. I'm sorry. Let me say it plainly. We are going to help you get your life back. Alberta looked at her. And who helps her boys forget seeing police take their mama? No one answered right away. That was the right answer. Some wounds were not supposed to be explained away. Maya picked up her laptop and stepped closer to Denise. Mrs. Carter, I know you have every reason not to trust anyone in this room. Denise turned to her. Do you have children? No. Then you don't know what it felt like. No, Maya said. I don't. The honesty softened Denise's face a little. Not into forgiveness, but into listening. Maya continued. But I do know what it feels like to watch someone you love get swallowed by a lie. My father was accused of financial fraud when I was a girl. He said he didn't do it. He was telling the truth. They cleared him after he died. Alberta's expression changed first. Older women heard grief quickly. They knew its footsteps. Denise lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. So am I, Maya said. That is why I came today. Not because I wanted you used in an operation. Not because any of this was fair. I came because I knew what would happen if nobody interrupted the machine. Denise looked toward the bench where Collier had sat. The empty chair seemed too large now. He was really going to send me away. Yes, for money. For money, Maya said. And because he believed no one would stop him. Denise nodded slowly, the truth entering her not like relief, but like a bruise being pressed. I kept thinking, maybe if I explained it right. Maybe if I said it better. Maybe if I didn't cry. Alberta reached for her hand. Baby. Denise's voice trembled. But he already knew. Maya did not soften the answer. Yes. Denise closed her eyes. Across the room, Deputy Harris finally bent and picked up the gavel. He held it for a moment, uncertain what to do with it, then placed it on the clerk's desk instead of returning it to the bench. Maya noticed. So did Alberta. That's right, Alberta said quietly. Don't give it back to that chair too soon. A faint, weary smile moved through the people close enough to hear her. Helen Morris checked her phone, then looked toward Maya. The transport team has Collier secured downstairs. The chief judge is being notified. Courtroom 6B is locked down as an evidence scene. Aaron Pike exhaled. So what happens now? Now, Helen said. We start counting the people he hurt. The sentence changed the room again. Denise looked up. There are others? Maya opened her laptop just enough to wake the screen. The glow touched her face, making her look older than 30 for a moment. 9 that we know of. Maybe more. 9 people like me? Yes. What happened to them? Maya looked at Helen. Helen's answer was careful. Some are incarcerated. Some accepted plea deals. One died last year. Denise's hand flew to her mouth. Alberta whispered, Lord have mercy. Maya felt the old ache rise in her chest. One died last year. There were always words like that hidden inside corruption. Small lines in official records. Lives reduced to past tense. Aaron Pike straightened. Then we reopen them. Keller looked up. We? Aaron turned to him. Yes, we. Unless you're done seeking justice for the weak. Keller accepted the blow. I'll cooperate. You'll do more than cooperate, Aaron said. You'll stand in front of every judge who hears these motions and say you prosecuted a false case built on corrupted evidence. Keller nodded. I will. Maya watched him carefully. And you will put that in writing before you leave this building. Keller looked at her. Yes. Helen Morris seemed satisfied. Good. Because by tonight, every conviction tied to the scale becomes a federal review priority. Denise stared at the names beginning to populate Maya's screen. Maribel Santos, Calvin Reed, Terrence Lowe, Anita Bell. People she had never met, yet suddenly felt connected to by the narrow escape she had been given. She touched the edge of the defense table. Can they come home too? Maya's voice was quiet. That is what we are going to fight for. Denise nodded once. Then she looked at the empty bench again. He thought I was nobody. Alberta squeezed her hand. That was his mistake. For the first time that day, Denise almost smiled. Maya closed the laptop. Mrs. Carter, your sons are waiting. Let's get you through the paperwork and out of this building. Denise looked at her. Will you walk with me? The question caught Maya off guard. She had spent her career entering rooms, exposing hidden systems, handing over evidence, and leaving before gratitude could make things complicated. But Denise was not asking as a witness or a defendant. She was asking as a mother who had walked into court alone and did not want to walk out that way. Maya nodded. Yes. They moved together toward the side conference room. Denise, Alberta, Aaron, Helen, and Maya, with the old laptop tucked under her arm. Behind them, federal agents continued gathering evidence. The bench remained empty. The clerk's desk held the gavel. The courtroom lights hummed softly above a room that had finally stopped pretending nothing was wrong. At the doorway, Denise paused and looked back. Not at the screen, not at the agents, at the chair. Then she said, so quietly, only Maya and Alberta heard it. I hope every woman he ever looked down on gets to hear about today. Maya looked at the empty bench, then at the door through which Collier had been taken. They will, she said, and as they stepped out of courtroom 6B, Maya understood that the arrest had ended only one part of the story. The harder part was waiting in prison cells, sealed files, old plea agreements, and homes where families had spent years believing the law had forgotten them. The money had been followed. Now the people had to be found. The conference room beside courtroom 6B was smaller than Denise expected. After everything that had happened, after the screen, the names, the handcuffs, and the judge being led away through doors he once controlled, she thought freedom might feel bigger. Instead, it felt like a plain government table, a box of tissues, 3 tired chairs, and a paper cup of water that trembled in her hand. Maya Williams sat across from her with the old laptop closed between them. Helen Morris stood near the wall, speaking quietly into her phone. Aaron Pike reviewed a short stack of forms while Alberta Carter sat beside her daughter, one hand resting on Denise's knee as if she feared someone might still come in and take her away. Denise stared at the paper in front of her. So, when I sign this, I'm not admitting to anything? Aaron shook his head. No. This confirms you've been advised that the charges are being dismissed and that Federal Victim Services will contact you today. It also confirms you understand you may be asked to provide testimony later. Denise looked up quickly. Against him? Against Collier, Helen said, ending her call and turning back to the table. And possibly against others connected to the laundering network. Denise let out a breath. Others. Maya heard the weight in that one word. People wanted evil to have one face because one face could be arrested, photographed, and led away. But money crimes were rarely built by one man. They were built like old houses in the South, with hidden rooms, false walls, and doors that opened only if you knew where to push. Yes, Maya said. Others. Alberta tightened her grip on Denise's knee. Then my daughter needs protection. She will have it, Helen said. Alberta looked at her with the hard patience of a woman who had lived long enough to know promises were cheapest when they came from government mouths. Not tomorrow. Not after the paperwork moves from one desk to another. Today, Helen nodded. Today. A protective detail is already being assigned for the next 72 hours. After that, we reassess based on threat level. Denise gave a tired laugh. Threat level. Yesterday, my biggest threat was my landlord. Maya leaned forward slightly. Mrs. Carter, the people who used your account may not know yet how much you saw or heard. That gives us a small window. We need to get you and your boys somewhere safe before Collier's arrest becomes public. Denise's face changed. My boys are at school. We know, Helen said. 2 agents are already there with the principal. They are not approaching the children until you approve it. Denise looked at Maya, and for the first time since the courtroom, anger rose above the fear. You know where my kids go to school. Maya did not look away. Yes. You had people watching them? Yes. Alberta sat straighter. And nobody thought to tell us? Helen stepped in, but Maya lifted one hand, asking to answer herself. We monitored them because once we confirmed your account had been selected, there was a chance the network might pressure you through your family. We did not contact you because we could not risk exposing the operation before Collier accessed the account. Denise stared at her. That sounds real clean when you say it like that. It wasn't clean, Maya said. It was the least dangerous choice we had. And it still hurt you. The room quieted. Denise looked down at the pen beside the forms. My oldest is 11. His name is Marcus. He pretends not to be scared because he thinks that helps me. My youngest is Eli. He's 7. He still sleeps with a nightlight, but he tells people it's for the hallway. Her voice trembled. When the officers came, Marcus stood between me and the door. 11 years old. Stood there like he was grown. So don't tell me about danger like it's something that started today. Maya felt the words go into her. Alberta closed her eyes. Aaron set his papers down. He had the look of a public defender who had spent years watching poor people explain pain to rooms that graded it for relevance. You're right, Maya said softly. I'm sorry. Denise looked at her for a long moment. You say that like you mean it. I do. Good. Then help me get my boys. Helen checked her phone. We can arrange that now. Denise signed the first form with a hand that shook only once, then the second, then the third. When Aaron slid the last page toward her, she stopped. What is this one? A release for your personal property. Your purse, phone, keys, anything taken during booking. Denise stared at the line where her name was printed. My keys. Alberta rubbed her back. You'll hold them again. Denise signed. It was a small thing, the return of keys. But Maya had seen what small things meant after a person had been stripped by the system. A belt, a wedding ring, a phone with a cracked screen, a house key. They were not objects. They were proof that the person still belonged somewhere outside the accusation. Helen opened the conference room door and spoke to someone in the hallway. A younger agent entered with a sealed plastic property bag. He placed it on the table and looked at Denise with more gentleness than procedure required. Ma'am, he said, these are yours. Denise took the bag. Inside were her wallet, a hair tie, a set of keys, a small bottle of hand lotion, and a phone with a purple case worn smooth at the corners. She touched the phone first. It's dead, the agent said. We have a charger. Denise laughed once, a broken little sound. Of course it's dead. That phone dies if I look at it wrong. Alberta made a soft noise that might have been a laugh too, and the room breathed a little easier. Maya stood. There is something else you should know before we leave. Denise looked up. What now? The arrest will be sealed for a few more hours, but not long. Once it breaks, reporters will come. Some will call you a victim. Some will call you lucky. Some will ask questions that feel kind but are really knives. Denise's face hardened. I don't want cameras near my boys. Then we keep them away, Helen said. No statement unless you want one. No interviews. No names of the school. No home address, Aaron added. And if anyone contacts you directly, you call me or Agent Morris before you answer. Denise nodded, but Maya could tell she was already somewhere else, imagining Marcus and Eli in a school office, wondering why adults with badges were waiting. Can we go now? Denise asked. Yes, Helen said. They moved into the hallway together. Not fast, but with purpose. 2 agents walked ahead. Deputy Harris stood near the courtroom doors, speaking with an evidence technician. When he saw Denise, he removed his hat. Ma'am, he said. Denise stopped. Harris looked uncomfortable, but he made himself continue. I served in that courtroom a long time. I should have seen more than I did. Denise studied him. Maybe. He nodded once, accepting it. I'm sorry. Alberta looked at him and said, "Being sorry is a start. Don't let it be the end." "Yes, ma'am," Harris said. Maya watched Denise absorb that too. Apologies were arriving now like rain after a house had burned down. Some mattered. Some did not. None could rebuild by themselves. At the elevators, Martin Keller waited. Aaron muttered under his breath, "Not now." Keller raised both hands slightly. "I'm not here to stop you." Denise's posture tightened. Keller held out a folded document to Aaron. Written acknowledgement. "My statement that the prosecution relied on corrupted evidence, and that I support immediate dismissal and review of all related cases." Aaron took it, surprised despite himself. "You drafted this already?" "I dictated it while you were in the conference room." Keller looked at Denise. "It's not enough." "No," Denise said. "It isn't. I know." She looked at him, tired beyond anger now. "Then, make it count for the others." Keller nodded. "I will." The elevator doors opened. Inside, Maya stood beside Denise while Alberta held her daughter's hand. As the doors closed, Denise leaned her head back against the wall and whispered, "I thought I was going to disappear in there." Maya looked at her reflection in the brushed metal doors. "You didn't." Denise turned her head slightly. "Because of you." "No," Maya said. "Because the truth had more than one witness today." The elevator descended. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then Denise's phone, plugged into a portable charger in Helen's hand, flickered back to life. It buzzed again and again, messages flooding in after 3 days of silence. Denise grabbed it with both hands. "Mama," she said. Marcus called 17 times. Alberta closed her eyes. "Call him back." Denise pressed the number. The line rang once. Then a boy's voice answered, small and trying to be brave. "Grandma?" Denise covered her mouth, but the sob escaped anyway. "No, baby," she said. "It's Mama." There was a sound on the other end. A gasp. A dropped phone. Then a shout so loud everyone in the elevator heard it. "Eli, it's Mama." Denise slid down against the elevator wall until Alberta caught her. She laughed and cried at the same time, holding the phone as if it were a lifeline. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, baby. I'm coming to get you. I'm coming right now." Maya turned her face away, not because she was embarrassed by Denise's joy, because for one moment, she heard the call she never got to make. "Daddy, it's me. You can come home." The elevator doors opened to the secured parking level. Agents moved into position. A black SUV waited, with its engine running. Denise stood slowly, still holding the phone. Maya stepped aside to let her pass, but Denise paused beside her. "Maya, yes, when this is over, when my boys are safe, I want to know their names." "Whose names?" Denise looked back toward the courthouse above them. "The others. The people he buried before me." Maya nodded. "I'll show you." Denise held the phone tighter. "Then we don't stop with me." Maya looked at her, and in that parking garage beneath a courthouse that had nearly destroyed her, Denise Carter no longer looked like a defendant, a victim, or a woman lucky to be free. She looked like the beginning of a reckoning. "No," Maya said. "We don't stop with you." The SUV door opened. Denise climbed in with Alberta beside her, still listening to her son's voices through the phone. Helen followed. Aaron took the front passenger seat, the folded statement from Keller in his hand. Maya remained outside for a moment, the old laptop under her arm, watching the vehicle pull away. Above her, somewhere inside the courthouse, agents were boxing files, sealing devices, and opening doors that powerful men had kept locked for years. The money had spoken. Now the names would. By the time the black SUV left the courthouse garage, the news had not yet broken. But Atlanta already seemed to know something had shifted. Not in headlines, not in phone alerts, not yet. It was smaller than that. A courthouse employee pausing too long by an elevator. A deputy refusing to meet another deputy's eyes. A clerk carrying sealed boxes with both hands, as if they contained something alive. In government buildings, scandal had a smell before it had a name. Maya Williams stayed behind. She watched the SUV disappear up the ramp with Denise Carter, Alberta, Aaron Pike, and Helen Morris inside. Denise was going to her children. That mattered more than anything else for the next hour. A mother should not have to be brave in front of cameras before she got to hold her boys. Maya turned back toward the service elevator, the old laptop tucked beneath her arm. A young federal agent waited beside the doors. "Miss William, Agent Morris wants you in evidence review." "I know. They've started pulling the archived cases." "How many?" "Initial match is 9. But the technical team says the scale may connect to more than Collier's courtroom." Maya's grip tightened on the laptop. "Of course it does." The agent looked at her. "You expected that?" "I hoped I was wrong." The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside. When Maya reached the temporary evidence room on the 4th floor, courtroom 6B had already become something else. Its doors were taped. Its benches were being photographed. The judge's bench was marked with small yellow evidence tags. The phone, the gavel, the clerk's terminal, even the power cables behind the courtroom screen had been logged and sealed. A folding table had been set up in the hallway. On it sat file boxes pulled from chambers, archived motion logs, sealed orders, sentencing reports, and digital storage drives removed from Collier's private office. People moved around them quietly, not with panic, but with the focused care of those who knew one careless hand could damage a life's only chance at being reopened. Helen Morris stood at the end of the table with her jacket off and her sleeves rolled to the forearms. She had the tired grace of a woman who had spent 30 years learning that justice came in paperwork long before it came in speeches. She looked up when Maya approached. "Denise is on her way to the school. Her sons are safe." Maya nodded. "Good." She asked again about the others. "She will keep asking." "I believe her." Helen handed Maya a folder. "Start with this one." Maya opened it. United States. V. Maribel Santos. A mugshot was clipped to the inside cover. A woman in her late 60s stared back at her with exhausted eyes and a swollen lower lip. Her gray hair had been pulled into a braid. Under occupation, the booking sheet read, "Hotel housekeeper." Maya did not speak for a moment. Helen watched her. "You saw her name on the screen?" "Yes." "Do you know her case?" "I know enough." Maya laid the folder open on the table. Maribel Santos had been accused of laundering funds through prepaid payroll cards connected to a cleaning subcontractor. The conviction had taken less than 4 hours. Judge Collier had called the evidence overwhelming. The transfer to the scale had cleared the next morning. "How long has she been inside?" Maya asked. 4 years. Maya looked up. "Where?" "Federal Correctional Facility in Aliceville." "Family?" "1 daughter, 2 grandchildren." Daughter stopped answering calls from reporters after the sentencing. The local coverage painted Maribel like some kind of mastermind. Maya looked back down at the mugshot. A hotel housekeeper with a prepaid payroll card. Helen's mouth tightened. People believe what lets them sleep. Before Maya could answer, Martin Keller appeared at the far end of the hallway. He had removed his tie. Without it, he looked older, less certain, more human. In one hand, he carried a legal pad. In the other, a paper cup of coffee he had not touched. Helen saw him first. "Mr. Keller." He stopped. "I know I'm not part of the federal team." "No," Helen said. "You are not. I also know I should not be trusted just because I regret being wrong." Maya looked at him. "That is the first useful thing you have said today." He accepted it with a nod. "Then let me be useful for a second time." Collier's clerk kept a private scheduling index. Not in the official docket. A separate one. I saw it once by accident during the Reed case and thought it was just internal chamber management. But the cases that moved fastest, the ones with shortened evidentiary windows, had a mark beside them. Helen's expression sharpened. "What kind of mark?" "A small-scale symbol." Maya went still. Keller continued. "At the time, I thought it meant priority balance review. Some chambers use shorthand. I didn't question it." "Where is the index?" Maya asked. "In chambers." Or it was. If he kept it on paper, it may be in his locked cabinet. Helen turned to the agent beside her. "Find the search lead. Tell them we need the locked chamber cabinet, opened under the warrant authority." The agent moved at once. Maya closed Maribel's folder carefully. "Why? Tell us." Keller looked toward courtroom 6B. Because Denise Carter asked me to make it count for the others. There was no drama in the answer. That helped. Helen nodded toward the table. Then start reading. If you touched one of these prosecutions, mark it. If you know the prosecutor, write the name. If you remember anything unusual, write that too. Do not remove a page. Do not correct the record. Do not protect anyone. I understand. No, Maya said. Not yet. But you might. Keller pulled out a chair and sat. For the next hour, the hallway became a graveyard of paper. Names emerged one after another. Maribel Santos, Calvin Reed, a retired mechanic accused of routing equipment payments through a nephew's repair business. Anita Bell, a school cafeteria worker who had opened a mobile banking account because her son told her it was safer than cash. Terrence Lowe, a church van driver who believed he was helping transport donations after a hurricane. Evelyn Porter, a widow who rented rooms in her house and got paid through an app she barely knew how to open. Maya read them the way some people read names on a memorial wall. Slowly, fully, refusing to let them become data points. At the bottom of Calvin Reed's file, she found the same structure used against Denise. Incoming deposit, brief hold, automated transfer, shell company, flagged suspicion, fast conviction. The scale. Beside her, Keller whispered, I prosecuted Reed. Maya did not look up. What did he say? Keller's voice roughened. He said his nephew told him it was legitimate. He said he didn't understand why the government thought he was smart enough to hide money when he still asked his daughter to help reset his voicemail. Maya turned a page. And what did you say? Keller swallowed. I said ignorance was not innocence. The hallway went very quiet around them. Maya looked at him then. Was that yours? Or did Collier give it to you? Keller's face changed. Maya saw the answer before he said it. He said it during a sidebar. Keller admitted. I used it in closing. Helen, standing nearby, wrote something down. Keller pressed his fingers against his eyes. God. Maya's voice was not cruel, but it did not comfort him either. Guilt is only useful if it turns into work. He lowered his hands. Tell me what to do. Read faster. He did. Near noon, the locked cabinet from Collier's chambers was opened. Inside were 3 leather-bound scheduling books, 2 flash drives, a bottle of expensive bourbon, and a stack of sealed envelopes marked with case initials. The search lead brought the first book to Helen. She opened it, flipped through the pages, and stopped. There it was. A small hand-drawn scale beside a date. Then another. Then another. Maya stood beside her and felt the old anger rise, quiet and steady. Not rage. Rage burned too fast. This was something colder, something that could last. Helen said. He marked them. Maya nodded. Not as cases. As transactions, Helen said. Keller came over slowly. He looked at the book, and his face seemed to collapse inward. There are more than 9. Maya counted the marks across 2 pages. A lot more. Helen closed the book. We need a review team tonight. Judges, prosecutors, defense counsel, innocence organizations, victim services. Every marked case gets immediate preservation notice. Keller looked at Maya. Some of these people may still be in prison. Some of them are, Maya said. The words stayed in the hallway. Then Maya's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Unknown number. For a moment, she thought of threats, leaks, the network already reaching out. She answered, without stepping away. This is William. A boy's voice came through, cautious and young. Is this Miss Maya? Maya's face softened before she could stop it. Yes. My mama said you helped her. Maya closed her eyes briefly. Is this Marcus? Yes, ma'am. Behind him, another smaller voice shouted, Tell her thank you. Marcus covered the phone badly. Eli said thank you. Maya turned away from the table so the others would not see her face. Tell Eli he is very welcome. Mama's crying, Marcus said, but not like before. Maya looked at the sealed evidence tags on the courtroom door. That is good crying, I think. I guess. He paused. Are you still helping her? Yes. And the other people? Maya looked back at the folders spread across the table. Maribel, Calvin, Anita, Terrence, Evelyn. Lives. Interrupted, boxed, stamped, and shelved. Yes, she said. We are helping them too. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, with the solemn certainty only children can have, good. Because Mama said nobody should be left in there if they didn't do it. Maya held the phone a little tighter. No, she said. Nobody should. After the call ended, she stood still for a few seconds, letting the boy's words settle somewhere deeper than the evidence, deeper than the anger. Helen watched her. Everything. All right? Maya slipped the phone into her pocket. Denise made it to her boys. For the first time all day, Helen smiled. Not much. Enough. Then Maya returned to the table, opened the next file, and read the name at the top. Evelyn Porter, age 71. Widow. Sentence. 6 years. Maya placed the file in the priority stack. Outside the sealed courtroom, the work began to change shape. It was no longer only about catching a corrupt judge. That part had been loud, visible, almost theatrical. This next part would be slower, older, harder. It would move through appeals, affidavits, hearings, prison visits, and families too tired to trust good news. It would require patience, and patience was not weakness. Maya had learned that from numbers. She had learned it from grief. A lie could move fast, but truth, once preserved, could keep walking for years. Maya picked up her pen and wrote beside Evelyn Porter's name, Urgent Review. Then she reached for the next file. By late afternoon, the courthouse no longer felt like a building. It felt like a body with all its old wounds being opened at once. Every hallway seemed to carry a name. Every file box held a story somebody had once reduced to a charge, a docket number, and a sentence. Maya Williams sat at the end of the evidence table, with Evelyn Porter's case open in front of her, reading the same paragraph for the third time, because her mind refused to accept how quietly the harm had been done. Evelyn Porter was 71 years old when she was arrested. A widow, a retired elementary school secretary. She rented 2 rooms in her house to traveling nurses because Social Security did not stretch as far as people liked to pretend it did. The laundering network had used a rental payment app connected to her account, moved money through it twice, then flagged her as part of a financial chain. Judge Collier had called her a willing participant who hid behind age and innocence. She was serving 6 years. Maya closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, Helen Morris was standing beside her with 2 paper cups of coffee. She set one near Maya's elbow. You've been reading for 4 hours, Helen said. So have you. I'm older. I'm allowed to be stubborn. Maya took the coffee but did not drink it. Evelyn Porter has arthritis in both hands. The sentencing transcript says, Collier described her as sophisticated enough to exploit digital payment systems. Helen looked down at the file. Could she? She called the app the rent button in her interview. Helen's face tightened. Across the table, Martin Keller was bent over Calvin Reed's file, marking pages with yellow tabs. His shoulders had sunk lower as the day went on. It was not enough for him to discover that he had been wrong. He had to see the human shape of every mistake. Maya did not pity him, but she understood the weight. The law had given him a sword, and he was now finding out where it had landed. Aaron Pike entered carrying a cardboard tray of sandwiches from the courthouse cafeteria. Turkey, ham, and something they claim is egg salad. Helen looked at the tray. That egg salad has seen things no food should see. Aaron set it down. Then eat the turkey. Nobody laughed much, but the attempt mattered. Older court clerks used to say that bad coffee and dry sandwiches held the justice system together. Maya had always thought that was a sad joke. Now, with files spread across the table and lives waiting inside them, she understood. People did heavy work with whatever was at hand. Aaron pulled out a chair beside Maya. Denise and the boys are settled at a safe location. Alberta is with them. Marcus asked if you eat dinner. Maya looked up. What? He asked his mother if the lady with the laptop eats dinner or just catches bad guys. For the first time in hours, Maya almost smiled. Tell Marcus I eat dinner when people stop committing crimes. Aaron nodded. So, never. Probably, never. Helen picked up Evelyn Porter's file. We need to decide who gets the first emergency motion. Maya's smile faded. Evelyn. Keller looked over. Maribel Santos has already served 4 years. Evelyn is 73 now, Maya said. Her medical record says uncontrolled hypertension, arthritis, and early congestive heart failure. If we wait, the review may arrive after she doesn't need it anymore. Keller lowered his eyes. You're right. Aaron opened another folder. Calvin Reed is in a state facility. His daughter filed 3 handwritten complaints after sentencing. All ignored. He might be able to get a hearing faster through state channels. If Keller signs an affidavit tonight, I'll sign it, Keller said. Aaron looked at him. You haven't read the whole record. I don't need the whole record to say the evidence chain is compromised. Helen nodded. Good. But we do it clean. No shortcuts. Shortcuts are how Collier built graves out of paperwork. Maya finally took a sip of coffee. It was burnt and lukewarm. Somehow, it helped. A young analyst approached with a flash drive sealed in plastic. Agent Morris. We pulled the first drive from Collier's chambers. It has encrypted folders labeled by initials. Same initials as the sealed envelopes. Helen took it. Can we open it? We need the key phrase. Maya's gaze moved to the sealed phone on the evidence cart. The recovery archive may have it. The analyst hesitated. There are hundreds of phrase fragments. Then we start with Collier's habits, Maya said. Judges who think they're poets usually leave themselves a key they believe no one else is clever enough to guess. Aaron leaned back. That sounded personal. It is professional disgust. The analyst set up a secure terminal at the end of the table. Maya connected her laptop through an evidence bridge, and within minutes, the screen filled with fragments pulled from the phone's locked notes, deleted drafts, calendar reminders, and password hints. Most were useless. Latin phrases, old case citations, dates, names of golf courses. A line from a speech Collier had given at a judicial ethics luncheon. Keller read one aloud with a grimace. The scales remain balanced in my hand. Maya looked at him. Helen looked at him. Aaron stopped unwrapping a sandwich. The analyst typed the phrase into the encrypted drive. Access denied. Maya said, try it, without spaces. Denied. Try, balanced in my hand. Denied? Keller stared at the phrase. He wouldn't use the public version. Too obvious. Maya looked at him. What would he use? Keller thought for a moment. Collier had this thing, he said in chambers, when defense attorneys argued hardship. He said mercy was not mathematics. Maya's face changed. Type that, she said. The analyst entered. Mercy is not mathematics. The drive opened. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Aaron muttered, I hate that it worked. Folders appeared on the screen. MS, CR, AB, TL, EP, DC, Maribel Santos, Calvin Reed, Anita Bell, Terrence Lowe, Evelyn Porter, Denise Carter. Maya clicked Denise's folder first. Inside were intake notes, financial vulnerability ratings, race and age identifiers, employer details, family pressure points, and a line that made Maya's stomach harden. Subject likely to plead if maternal separation pressure applied. Aaron swore under his breath. Keller stood so quickly his chair scraped the floor. They profiled her children. Helen's voice went flat. They profiled everyone. Maya opened Evelyn Porter's folder. Widow. Limited technical literacy. Social isolation. Medical pressure. Unlikely to withstand prolonged litigation. Maya felt her hands go cold. This was not merely money laundering. It was human harvesting. The network had not stumbled upon vulnerable people. It had studied them. It had chosen them the way a thief chooses a house with no porch light and no dog. Aaron pushed his sandwich away. We need these in every emergency motion. Helen nodded. And we need protective orders before the press gets any of it. These files contain family details. Keller was still standing. Who created the profiles? Maya opened the metadata. A company name appeared. Whitcomb Legal Holdings. Below it, a user ID. GW Executive. Helen wrote it down. Graham Whitlock. Aaron looked at her. You know him? Corporate attorney. White-collar defense. Political donor. Quiet man with expensive friends. Maya remembered the name from the shell company registry. He registered Marshland Advisory. And he may be above Collier, Helen said. Keller looked pale again. There's someone above the judge? Maya stared at the folders on the screen. A judge doesn't build a transnational laundering corridor by himself. He sells access to the courtroom. Someone else sells the whole machine. The hallway seemed colder after that. The analyst opened another folder marked admin. Inside was a communication log. Most entries were coded, but one message sat in plain text, perhaps because the sender had been too confident to hide it. If Carter closes by noon, release the scheduled amount and retire RC from active handling. He is becoming unstable. Helen read it twice. RC is Collier, Aaron said. Retire him? How? Maya's phone buzzed before anyone could answer. This time, the caller ID showed Denise. Maya answered immediately. Mrs. Carter? Denise's voice was low. Maya, I'm sorry to call. You can call. There's a black car across from the house where they brought us. Helen's people saw it too. But I need to ask you something. Maya stood. Helen noticed at once. What is it? Maya asked. Denise hesitated. In the background, Maya could hear a child asking for juice and Alberta telling him to wait. Denise lowered her voice further. Before all this, one of the men from the online job called me. The day before I got arrested. He said if anyone asked, I should say, I knew the transfers were mine. He said if I didn't, people could get hurt. Maya's hand tightened around the phone. Did he give a name? No. But I wrote down the number. I was scared. I wrote it on the back of my grocery receipt and put it in my Bible. Maya looked at Helen. Helen was already reaching for her own phone. Denise said, Maya, I'm here. Was I supposed to tell somebody sooner? No, Maya said, and her voice softened. You survived the way you knew how. That is not a crime. Denise was quiet for a moment. I can give you the number. Yes. Give it to Agent Morris's team. Do not say it out loud if anyone outside the protection detail is near you. Okay. And Denise? Yes? Stay away from the windows. The line went very still. Then Denise said, I understand. When the call ended, Maya turned back to the table. The network contacted Denise directly before the arrest. Threatened her family. She has a phone number. Helen was already moving. I'll get it traced. Aaron looked toward the screen. And the message about retiring Collier? Maya looked at the open admin log, then at Collier's empty courtroom doors. It means he was not the end of this, she said. He was a liability. Keller's voice dropped. Then today, didn't just expose the network. No, Maya said. It scared it. At the far end of the hallway, an evidence technician opened one of the sealed envelopes from Collier's cabinet and froze. Helen saw his face. What is it? He lifted a single photograph from the envelope with gloved hands. Maya stepped closer. The photo showed Denise Carter leaving her apartment building 2 weeks earlier. Marcus beside her carrying a backpack. Eli holding her hand. On the back, someone had written in black ink. Good pressure point. Maya felt the room tilt into something colder than anger. Helen whispered. They watched the children. Maya looked down at the photograph, then at the files, then at the encrypted folders still waiting to be opened. The money had spoken. The names had begun. But now the threat had a face. And Maya understood that saving Denise from prison was only the first rescue. The next one would have to happen before the network decided that witnesses were easier to erase than records. Helen Morris did not raise her voice, but the hallway obeyed her anyway. Lock down the safe house location. Rotate the detail. No one uses the front entrance. I want plates run on every vehicle within 2 blocks, and nobody approaches Denise Carter's family without 2-agent confirmation. The agents around her moved at once. Maya Williams stood beside the evidence table, staring at the photograph of Denise and her boys. Marcus had been walking half a step ahead in the picture, trying to look older than 11. Eli's small hand was buried in his mother's palm. Denise had not known anyone was watching. That was what made the image feel obscene. Aaron Pike looked as though he might be sick. They photographed her kids. Helen took the photograph from the technician and slid it into a clear evidence sleeve. They profiled them. The photograph is proof of surveillance. Keller's voice came from behind them, low and strained. and pressure. Maya turned. "What did you say?" He pointed at the note on the back. "Good pressure point." That language. It means they weren't only watching. They were planning what would break her. The word struck Maya with a cold precision. She had seen criminal networks use fear before. Threats hidden inside friendly messages. Photos mailed without return addresses. A car parked too long across the street. But there was something especially rotten about men in suits studying children as leverage, while calling themselves advisors, consultants, officers of the court. Helen stepped closer to Maya. "I need you to stay here and keep working the files." Maya shook her head. "No, Maya. The number Denise saved may lead directly to whoever handled her. If they are moving now, we cannot wait for a standard trace queue. We have people for that. They do not know the structure the way I do." Helen's eyes hardened, not in anger, but in command. "And you are not a field agent today. You are the analyst who cracked the account. That makes you valuable, exposed, and possibly named in their communications by now. I'm also the one Denise called. That does not make you responsible for standing in front of every bullet." Maya held her gaze. "No, but it makes me responsible for not treating her like a file once she walks out of the room." For a moment, the two women simply looked at each other. Helen was old enough to have buried colleagues. Maya could see that in her face. She was also old enough to know that some people could not be protected by being ordered to care less. Finally, Helen said, "You do not go to the safe house. You work the trace from here. If it identifies an immediate threat, my team moves. That is not negotiable." Maya wanted to argue. Then she thought of Denise on the phone, trying to keep her voice calm while her children were close enough to hear fear. "All right," Maya said. "Give me the number when it comes in." Helen nodded once. "Thank you for being reasonable." "I'm not. I'm prioritizing." "That will do." Aaron exhaled. "For what it's worth, I'm with Helen. Denise needs you alive more than she needs you heroic." Maya looked at him. "Did you rehearse that?" "No. I'm a public defender. We improvise panic." The faintest smile touched Maya's mouth, then vanished as Helen's phone buzzed. Helen answered. "Morris." She listened, her face unreadable. "Send it to the evidence terminal. Now." She hung up and looked at Maya. "Denise found the receipt. The number is coming through." The analyst at the secure terminal lifted a hand. "Got it." Maya moved beside him. A 10-digit number appeared on the screen, attached to the photograph Denise had taken of the grocery receipt tucked inside her Bible. The handwriting was hurried but legible, written beneath a faded line item for milk, rice, and children's cough syrup. Maya read the number once. Then again, something about it bothered her. "It's a VoIP mask," the analyst said. "Probably dead. Run it anyway," Helen said. The analyst started the trace. Carrier record shows the number was active for 6 days, registered through a prepaid virtual exchange. No subscriber identity. Maya leaned closer. "Pull call routing, not subscriber. Who did it connect through before the mask?" The analyst typed quickly. "Stand by." Keller came up beside them. Would the handler really use a traceable number? "Not intentionally," Maya said. "But handlers get lazy when they are speaking to people they think are powerless." The trace populated slowly. First, the virtual exchange, then a regional routing node, then an encrypted relay. The analyst frowned. "Relay dead ends in Virginia." Maya shook her head. "That is the front door. Check for billing pingbacks." "Billing? Masked numbers still have to pay for relay time. Somebody funded the account." The analyst opened another panel. "Payment token, tied to a corporate privacy card." Helen leaned in. "Name? Whitcomb Legal Holdings." Aaron muttered. "Of course." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Go deeper. What user authorized the card?" The analyst clicked through the record. "Administrative account. GW, executive. Graham Whitlock." The name moved through the small group without anyone saying it at first. Helen finally did. "Whitlock handled Denise directly." Maya shook her head. "Or someone using his credentials." Keller looked at her. "You think he was framed too?" "No. I think men at the top often make other people place the calls. But the billing token ties the threat to his system." Helen turned to another agent. I want a warrant draft for Whitcomb Legal Holdings. Office, home, devices, cloud accounts, financial records. The agent nodded and moved. The analyst spoke again. There's more. The masked number received 3 inbound calls before contacting Denise. From? Maya asked. 1 from an unregistered device, 1 from Collier's recovered phone, 1 from a landline. Helen's expression sharpened. What landline? The analyst read the screen. Private club in Buckhead. The Fairborn Club. Keller closed his eyes. I've been there. Maya looked at him. He opened his eyes slowly. Collier hosted a judicial ethics fundraiser there last spring. Whitlock attended. Half the city's legal establishment attended. Aaron said, Judicial ethics. That's rich. Maya studied the call times. The landline call came 12 minutes before Denise was threatened. Then Collier's phone called the number 3 minutes later. Then the masked number called Denise. Helen followed the sequence. Whitlock's people get instructions from the club. Collier confirms. Handler threatens Denise. And if she panics, Maya said. She pleads. Keller's voice was hollow. Then the conviction clears. The scale pays. Collier gets retired from active handling. Aaron folded his arms. We need to know who was at that club when the call was placed. Helen nodded. I'll subpoena the logs. Maya was already typing. Private clubs keep more than logs. Badge swipes. Valet records. Dining tabs. Security footage. Wi-Fi access. The analyst glanced at her. You want the Wi-Fi? I want every device that connected to their network during that call window. Helen looked at her. That may require a separate warrant. Then get one. Helen almost smiled. You are very comfortable giving orders for someone who refused to be called a field agent. I'm not giving orders. I'm following the money sideways. Before Helen could answer, another agent approached with a sealed envelope from Collier's cabinet. You need to see this. Helen took it, opened it carefully, and removed a printed email chain. The subject line read, Carter Matter Accelerated Disposal. Maya felt the air leave the hallway again. Helen read aloud only the top line. If the Carter woman breaks, make sure the children are mentioned only indirectly. We need fear, not a witness tampering charge. Aaron's face went dark. Who wrote it? Helen turned the page. GW. Keller whispered. Whitlock. Maya reached for the email and read the rest silently. It was worse than the first line. Cold language. Legal caution. Human cruelty trimmed into professional advice. Do not threaten explicitly. Let poverty do the work. Reference dependency. Emphasize separation. Avoid direct statement of harm. Maya set the paper down. For a moment, she was back at her own kitchen table, watching her mother read the letter that cleared Leonard William, after death, had already closed the door. The law had apologized in tidy paragraphs. No one had written down the fear before that. No one had recorded the nights, the unpaid bills, the way neighbors stopped visiting because accusation was contagious. But here, with Denise, they had written down the fear. They had planned it. Helen's voice cut through Maya's thoughts. Maya, I'm here. You look like you're about to go somewhere dangerous. I'm thinking, that is often where dangerous begins. Maya looked at the Fairborn Club number still glowing on the screen. Whitlock is not going to wait for us to knock on his office door. If he knows Collier is down, he will sanitize everything. Helen's phone buzzed again before she could respond. She answered, listened, and her posture changed. What happened? Maya asked. Helen ended the call. News of Collier's arrest just leaked. The hallway seemed to tighten around them. Keller looked toward the sealed courtroom. How long do we have? Maya stared at the screen. Less than we needed. The analyst's terminal chimed. He looked down. The Fairborn Club's public reservation system is still accessible. Tonight, private dining room booked under Whitcomb Legal Holdings. Helen stepped closer. What time? 7:30. Aaron checked his watch. That is in 2 hours. Maya's eyes stayed on the reservation. Whitcomb Legal Holdings. Private dining room. Same club. Same phones. Same men who had spoken about Denise Carter's life like a lever. Helen said, It could be nothing. Maya shook her head. It is a cleanup meeting. Keller looked sick again. Or a payout. Or a list of witnesses, Maya said. No one spoke. Then Helen turned to the nearest agent. Prepare a surveillance request. Quiet approach. No uniforms. We do not move until we know who shows. Maya picked up her old laptop. Helen saw it. You are not going. Maya looked at her. If Whitlock opens a device in that room, we may have one chance to catch a live session before he wipes it. Your agents can watch faces. I can read the system. Maya, you said I'm valuable because I cracked the account. Then use what is valuable. Helen held her gaze for a long moment. Aaron said softly, Denise told you not to stop with her. Maya did not look at him. I know. Helen exhaled through her nose. You go in the van. You do not enter the club. You do not improvise. You do not chase anyone. Maya nodded. Agreed. Helen pointed at her. That was too quick. It was sincere enough. It had better be. Maya gathered the laptop, the trace notes, and the copied email chain. As she did, her phone buzzed with a message from Denise. We got the boys. They're scared but safe. Marcus says don't forget to eat. Maya read it twice. Then she typed back. Tell Marcus I will eat. When the bad guys stop making dinner difficult. A few seconds later, Denise replied with a laughing emoji. Then another message. Be careful. Maya looked at the words for a moment before slipping the phone into her pocket. Careful was not the same as safe. She had known that for a long time. At 5:42 p.m., as the sun lowered behind the courthouse windows and the city prepared to learn that a judge had been arrested in his own courtroom, Maya William walked toward the elevator with Helen Morris and a team of federal agents. Behind them, the files remained open. Ahead of them, at a private club in Buckhead, the people who thought they still controlled the story were about to gather around a dinner table, and Maya intended to make sure they did not leave with the truth. The surveillance van looked like every other service vehicle parked behind a private club in Buckhead. White paint, no markings, a ladder rack on top, and enough dust on the rear bumper to make it forgettable. That was the point. Justice, Maya had learned, rarely arrived with music. Sometimes it came in a van that looked like it repaired air conditioners. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee, warm electronics, and old carpet. Maya sat at a narrow workstation with her laptop open, its cracked hinge catching the glow from 3 mounted monitors. Helen Morris stood behind her, one hand braced against the wall of the van as she listened through an earpiece. 2 agents sat up front. Another monitored the club's rear entrance through a long lens camera. The Fairborn Club rose across the service alley, all brick, brass lamps, and old Southern money polished until it no longer looked like money at all, just tradition. Men in tailored jackets entered through the front as if the city outside belonged to them by arrangement. A valet opened doors. A hostess smiled. Somewhere inside, tables were being set with white linen and heavy silverware, while federal agents watched every exit. Maya glanced at the clock. 2018 pp. Helen's earpiece crackled. She listened, then said, Whitlock just arrived. One of the monitors switched to a front entrance feed. Graham Whitlock stepped from a black town car, tall, silver-haired, elegant in a charcoal suit. He did not look hurried. That bothered Maya. A man who was not afraid after a judge had been arrested was either innocent or protected by arrogance so deep it had become a second skeleton. Helen said, Confirm visual. The agent on audio replied, Confirmed. Whitlock entering with 2 associates. Male, mid-40s, navy suit. Female, late 50s, red coat. Facial recognition pending. Maya's fingers hovered over the keys. Any devices? Connecting? The analyst beside her, a young man named Orrin, checked the network feed. Club Wi-Fi is noisy. Members, staff tablets, payment terminals. I'm isolating devices entering the private dining wing. Look for a device that wakes after Whitlock enters, Maya said. High-security VPN, private relay, or sudden MAC randomization. Orrin gave her a quick look. That narrows it to half of Buckhead. Then start with the half-wearing expensive shoes. Helen almost smiled, but her eyes stayed on the monitor. At 7:24, another car arrived. An older woman stepped out, small and upright. with white hair cut close and pearls at her throat. Helen leaned toward the screen. "Margaret Vale," she said. Maya looked up. The retired appellate judge? Retired publicly. Still consults on judicial appointments, campaign finance, private arbitration. She sat on 3 ethics panels with Collier. The woman entered without looking left or right. Maya watched the door close behind her. "This is not a casual dinner." "No," Helen said. "It is a board meeting for a house on fire." At 7:31, the private dining room's internal audio came alive through a planted source Maya had not asked about and Helen had not explained. The sound was muffled at first. Chairs moving, glasses set down, a waiter offering sparkling water. Then Whitlock's voice came through, smooth and controlled. "No phones on the table." Maya's eyes lifted to Helen. Helen whispered, "Smart," Orrin said. 3 devices, just dropped off public Wi-Fi. Maya leaned in. Did they shut down? Or switch? Switch. Private relay. 1 device still handshaking. "Show me." A packet stream appeared on Maya's screen. Encrypted, brief, slippery, but its rhythm looked familiar. She had seen that handshake before in the administrative logs from the scale. "There," she said. "That is not ordinary traffic." Orrin typed quickly. "Can we tag it?" "Not yet. If we touch too hard, it vanishes." From the audio, the woman in the red coat spoke. "The news channels are already circling. If Collier talks, this becomes bigger than Georgia." Whitlock answered. "Collier will say nothing useful. He has too much to lose." A male voice said, "He has already lost the bench." "Yes," Whitlock said. "And prison teaches men to calculate. Collier understands self-preservation." Maya felt Helen shift behind her. The retired judge, Margaret Vale, spoke next. Her voice was dry, almost bored. "You underestimated the William woman." Maya did not move. Whitlock said, "I underestimated the timing, not the woman." "Do not dress failure as scheduling," Vale said. She walked into a courtroom with a taped-together laptop and removed a judge before lunch. "That is not timing. That is competence." For one strange second, Maya felt no satisfaction in the compliment, only a deeper unease. These people were not shouting. They were evaluating, rebalancing, deciding which lives to cut loose. Helen's voice was low. "Keep recording." Orrin pointed to Maya's screen. "The private relay is opening a secure portal." Maya's hands moved. "Mirror handshake only. Do not enter." "I'm not touching it." The portal sent a small burst of authentication data, then paused. Maya frowned. "It's waiting for a physical token." Inside the dining room, Whitlock said, "The Carter file is gone. The Santos and Reed matters can be contained. Porter is medically fragile, but sympathy cuts both ways. We frame any review as political overreach." The man in the navy suit asked, "And the scale?" Whitlock did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was colder. "The scale is finished. We migrate what remains tonight." Maya whispered, "There it is." Helen leaned closer. "Can you see where?" "Not yet." Margaret Vale said, "Migration requires authorization from 2 custodians." Whitlock replied, "Collier was one. He is no longer functional." The woman in red asked, "Then who replaces him?" A pause followed. Maya's screen flashed with a new handshake. A second device had joined the portal from inside the room. Orrin muttered, "2 custodians." Maya tracked the signature. Device 1 is Whitlock. Device 2 belongs to someone else at the table. Helen asked, "Can you identify?" "Give me 10 seconds." The audio caught the clink of a glass. Then Margaret Vale said, "I did not come out of retirement to clean up Raymond Collier's vanity." Whitlock's voice softened, but not kindly. "You came because your name is in the old approvals." Silence. Maya's fingers stopped. Helen's eyes narrowed. Whitlock continued, "You signed the arbitration shields. You blessed the private judicial pipeline. You told our donors that vulnerable cases could be converted into predictable outcomes. So spare me the moral altitude, Margaret." The retired judge spoke very quietly. "Be careful, Graham." "No," Whitlock said. "Careful was this morning. Tonight is survival." Maya's screen populated the second device ID. She read the owner tag, MV Chambers. Helen whispered. Margaret Vale. Maya nodded. She is the second custodian. Oren looked between them. Do we move now? Helen held up a hand. Not until they initiate migration. We need the receiving destination. Maya stared at the portal. They are about to give it to us. Inside the room, the man in the navy suit asked, What about the woman, Maya William? Whitlock answered too quickly. She can be discredited. Vale said, Can she? She has a dead father with an old fraud case. There are ways to make obsession look like instability. Maya's hands went still. The van seemed to shrink around her. Helen touched the back of Maya's chair. Not comfort exactly. A reminder. Stay here. Stay present. Whitlock went on. By tomorrow morning, certain reporters can be told she manipulated a grieving defendant, ambushed a judge, and contaminated evidence to avenge a family grievance. The public likes heroes, but it loves watching them fall. Maya looked at the screen until the numbers blurred for half a breath. Her father again. Always her father. Not alive enough for justice, but still useful to people who wanted to wound her. Helen bent close and said softly, Do not let him pull you out of the work. Maya inhaled once. He won't. And then she moved faster. On the screen, Whitlock's device opened the migration channel. Destination address masked. Multi-layer escrow vault. Offshore routing. A security challenge appeared. Maya whispered, Come on. Show me where you're running. Oren said, They're fragmenting. No. They're pretending to fragment. Maya followed the smallest packet, the one designed to look like noise. Criminal systems often hid the truth in what they expected analysts to ignore. Her father had taught her that in a different language, years ago, at a kitchen table. Check the penny column, baby. People hide mistakes where they think nobody cares to count. She counted. The packet resolved into a destination certificate. Fairchild Meridian Trust. Helen saw the name. That is a private wealth bank. Not just a bank, Maya said. A custodian for political money, estate transfers, dark trusts. Inside the room, Whitlock said, Authorize. Margaret Vale replied, Once I do this, there is no going back. Whitlock gave a small laugh. Margaret, there was no going back the first time you signed. The second authorization key activated. Maya pressed enter. The evidence bridge captured the destination, the custodian keys, the migration command, and the active user signatures in one clean sweep. On the monitor, a green line appeared. Live migration mirrored. Maya's voice stayed calm. We have it. Helen lifted her wrist mic. Move. The van erupted into controlled motion. Agents from the front entrance stepped inside. A team covered the rear. Another moved through the service corridor. Helen opened the van door and stepped out, followed by 2 agents. Maya stayed seated for 3 seconds. Then the audio from the dining room spiked. A chair scraped violently. Someone shouted, Federal agents! Another voice. Whitlock's, sharp and furious. Close the device. Maya saw the portal begin to collapse. Oren, she said, keep the mirror alive. I'm trying. The connection flickered. Whitlock's device triggered a burn command. Maya's fingers flew. No, you don't. The old laptop hummed hard, fan whining like a tired engine. Lines of code raced across the screen. Oren cursed under his breath. The burn command hit the mirror wall once, twice, then splintered into contained fragments. Evidence vault preserved. Maya exhaled. Through the audio, she heard Helen's voice inside the dining room. Graham Whitlock. Step away from the table. Whitlock answered. You have no idea what you are interrupting. Helen said. I believe we are interrupting a crime. Margaret Vale's voice came next, thin now. I want counsel. You should, Helen said. Maya looked at the preserved vault on her screen. Names were beginning to unfold beneath the trust structure. Not just Collier, not just Vale, not just Whitlock. Donors, lawyers, consultants, shell directors, political accounts, charitable boards. A whole polite ecosystem built around human ruin. Oren stared. This is bigger than we thought. Maya watched the names keep appearing. No, she said quietly. It is exactly as big as they thought they could get away with. Her phone buzzed. A message from Denise. Did you eat yet? Maya looked at the sandwich Aaron had forced into her bag hours earlier, still untouched beside the workstation. She typed back, "Working on it." Then, after a moment, she added, "We found more of them." Denise replied almost immediately, "Then keep going." Maya looked through the open van door toward the Fairborn Club, where agents were leading well-dressed people out through a side entrance that had probably never seen handcuffs before. She placed both hands back on the keyboard. "I am," she whispered, and as the first sirens approached from far down the Buckhead streets, the old laptop began opening the vault, one name at a time. The first name inside the Fairchild Meridian vault belonged to a man Maya had seen on television twice that year. Charles R. Benning. He was not a judge. He was not a lawyer of record. He had never signed a motion, presided over a hearing, or stood at a podium calling for law and order. To the public, he was a civic donor, a real estate developer, a man who appeared in glossy magazine profiles beside phrases like urban renewal and public-private partnership. His foundation sponsored literacy breakfasts, police athletic leagues, and scholarship luncheons where people clapped politely over chicken breast and green beans. On Maya's screen, he was listed as a distribution beneficiary. Beside his name were amounts, dates, and coded references to cases. Maribel Santos, Calvin Reed, Evelyn Porter, Denise Carter. Oren, the young analyst beside her, stared at the screen. Benning Development owns half the redevelopment parcels downtown. Maya kept scrolling. Then now we know how he got some of them. Another name unfolded beneath Benning's, Councilman Robert Hale, then a retired banking regulator, then a former deputy district attorney, then 3 shell trusts with no human names yet attached. The vault was not a pile of money. It was an address book for rot. Outside the van, the Fairborn Club had become a quiet disaster. No sirens screamed directly at the curb. Helen Morris had made sure of that. The arrests were controlled, shielded from the front entrance, moved through service corridors where men accustomed to mahogany rooms and white linen were now being guided past crates of produce and bins of folded napkins. That felt right to Maya. People who had treated others as disposable should at least pass once through the part of a building where invisible labor lived. Graham Whitlock came out first. 2 agents walked beside him, not touching him more than necessary. He was not cuffed in front where guests might see. His hands were secured behind him, beneath his tailored suit jacket. Even arrested, the world was trying to preserve a little of his dignity. Maya noticed that too. Whitlock saw the surveillance van. Then he saw her through the open side door. For the first time all night, his smooth face changed. Not much, but enough. Maya looked back at him without expression. Helen came out behind him. She spoke briefly to an agent, then crossed to the van and climbed inside. Her face was calm, but her eyes were lit with the hard satisfaction of a hunter who had not mistaken tracks for the animal. "What do we have?" she asked. Maya turned the screen toward her. The migration mirror opened the beneficiary layer. Benning is on it. So is Councilman Hale, Margaret Vale, and at least 6 trust entities. The case tags match the victim files. Helen leaned closer. "Can we tie distributions to specific convictions?" "Yes. Some already. Others need reconciliation against bank records. Export a preservation package." "Already running." Oren pointed to another panel. "We also captured the live authorization from Whitlock and Vale. Both custodian signatures are intact." Helen exhaled slowly. "Good." Maya looked toward Whitlock, now being placed inside an unmarked SUV. "He said he could discredit me by using my father." Helen's face softened in a way Maya did not want it to. "I heard, I need you to tell me if any of that was already moving." "Oren," Helen said. Oren pulled up a monitoring dashboard. Media chatter started 12 minutes ago. 3 anonymous tips sent to local outlets claiming today's arrest was the result of a rogue financial analyst with a personal vendetta. No major publication has run with it yet. Maya felt the words land, but she kept her face still. Source: encrypted email relay. But one message reused language from a draft in Whitlock's admin folder. Helen said, "We can warn the outlets." Maya shook her head. "No. Send them the truth first." Helen studied her. "Meaning?" "Announce Collier's arrest with the federal basis. Include that the operation was court-authorized under seal. Include that Denise Carter was cleared as a victim. Do not let Whitlock's lie be the first clean sentence people read. Helen nodded slowly. You are right. I know. Orrin muttered. That was humble. Maya gave him a tired look. I'm saving humility for after midnight. Helen stepped out to make the call. Maya turned back to the vault. The names kept expanding through linked records. Some were obvious. Others hid behind initials, donor-advised funds, and consulting retainers. Still, the system had one weakness. Greed liked to be credited. People who took money wanted proof that they were owed money. Even criminals kept receipts when their egos got involved. A new file opened under Charles Benning's folder. Land acquisition, influence notes. Maya clicked it. The first entry referenced a block of apartment buildings near the old Fourth Ward. The second referenced a senior housing complex. The third made her stop. Carter corridor cleared after conviction. Parcel pressure expected within 90 days. Maya read it again. Then she understood. Denise had not been chosen only because she was vulnerable. Her building mattered. Her neighborhood mattered. Her conviction would have made her easier to evict, discredit, and remove from a block marked for redevelopment. The laundering case was not separate from Benning's real estate work. It was part of the clearing machinery. She opened another file. Tenant vulnerability matrix. Names appeared in rows. Residents, ages, jobs, outstanding rent balances, medical dependencies, criminal exposure risk, influence potential. Maya's stomach tightened. Denise Carter was one line among many. Alberta Carter was another. Marcus and Eli were listed under family leverage. Maya whispered, "Dear God." Orrin looked over. "What?" She did not answer. She exported the file, tagged it urgent, and sent it to the preservation package. Helen returned, phone still in hand. "Federal statement goes out in 10 minutes. What did you find?" Maya showed her. Helen read the tenant matrix in silence. Her expression did not change, but one hand closed slowly around the edge of the workstation. "They were using prosecutions to clear redevelopment zones," Maya said. "Not just laundering, displacement, asset capture, pressure through criminal records." Helen's voice went low. "Benning." "Yes." Aaron Pike's voice came from the van doorway. "Tell me, you did not just say Benning." Maya turned. "Why are you here?" "Denise asked me to bring you this." He held up a wrapped sandwich. "Turkey," she said. Marcus insisted. Despite everything, Maya stared at it. Aaron climbed into the van and set the sandwich beside her laptop. "Now tell me why I heard Benning," Helen said. "Because his name is in the vault." Aaron's face hardened. "Benning Development owns the management company trying to buy Denise's building." Maya nodded. "I know that now." "No, you don't." Aaron leaned closer. "They started pressuring tenants 6 months ago. Sudden code complaints, rent hikes, offers to relocate that would not cover 3 months anywhere else. Denise organized a tenants meeting in the church basement. She was becoming a problem. The pieces locked together so cleanly that Maya hated the sound of it inside her head. Denise was not random. She was targeted, not merely to move money, to remove her. Maya picked up her phone and called Denise. She answered on the second ring. "Maya, are the boys with you?" "Yes. They're eating." "Why? Is anyone from your building trying to contact you?" Denise paused. "My neighbor, Mrs. Larkin, texted. She said 2 men came by asking if I was coming back tonight." Helen was already signaling agents. Maya kept her voice calm. "Do not answer anyone else from the building. Do not tell anyone where you are." "Maya, what is happening?" Maya hesitated. Denise deserved the truth, but not in a way that made her children watch fear return to her face over dinner. "We found evidence that you were targeted because of your building and the tenants' meeting." Denise went quiet. Then she said, "I knew it." Maya closed her eyes briefly. "You knew?" "They kept saying I was causing trouble. First the manager, then some man in a suit after the meeting. He told me people who make noise sometimes get attention they don't want." "Did you report it?" "To who?" Denise asked. Not bitterly, just honestly. "The police who arrested me? The court that laughed at me? The landlord trying to push us out?" Maya had no answer. Denise continued. "Mrs. Larkin is 79. Mr. Brooks uses a walker. The Rileys have a baby. If this is about the building, they are not safe either. Maya looked at Helen. Helen nodded once. She understood. We are sending people to check on them, Maya said. Quietly. No, Denise said. Maya frowned. No? If badges show up, half the building will panic, and the other half won't open the door. Send Reverend Cole. People trust him. His church is 2 blocks over. He knows everybody. Maya looked at Aaron. Aaron nodded. She's right. Reverend Nathaniel Cole, retired Army chaplain, runs the tenant's pantry. Helen pointed at an agent. Find him. Bring him in through community liaison, not tactical. Denise heard some of it through the phone. And Maya? Yes. Eat the sandwich. For the first time all night. Maya almost laughed. Marcus again? Me too. Maya looked at the turkey sandwich, sitting beside a screen full of stolen lives. I will. You better. People who skip meals make bad decisions. That sounds like your mother. It is. Maya's smile faded, but the warmth of the moment stayed. We are going to protect the building, Denise. You promise? Maya looked at the screen, at Benning's name, at the matrix that had turned families into obstacles. Yes, she said. I promise. When the call ended, Aaron watched her. That is a big promise. I know. Helen's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, then covered the receiver. Federal statement is live. Collier's arrest confirmed. Denise Carter identified as a wrongfully accused victim. No address. No child names. Orrin refreshed a news feed. Headlines began appearing one by one. Federal judge arrested in financial corruption probe. Wrongfully accused mother cleared after courtroom operation. Private legal consultant detained in laundering investigation. Then another headline appeared from a smaller outlet. Developer Charles Benning linked to sealed federal inquiry. Helen looked at Maya. That was fast. Maya stared at the line. Too fast. Orrin checked the source. Anonymous leak. Aaron's face darkened. From whom? Before anyone could answer, Maya's laptop pinged. A new message appeared through the evidence portal, sent to the same administrative channel Whitlock had tried to burn. No sender name, only a line of text. You took Collier, you took Whitlock. Stay away from Benning, or the children become the story. The van went silent. Maya read the message once, then she reached for the sandwich, unwrapped it, and took a bite. Aaron stared at her. Seriously? Maya swallowed. Denise told me to eat. Helen's mouth tightened, almost into a smile, but her eyes stayed cold. Maya turned back to the keyboard. Trace the message. Orrin was already moving. On it. Maya looked at the threat again, and whatever softness had entered her from Marcus's sandwich disappeared into something steadier. They still think fear is a language everyone speaks, she said. Helen stood behind her, and Maya's fingers moved across the keys. And now we answer in evidence. The blinking point moved south through Buckhead, then east, then doubled back toward Peachtree Road, as if Arthur Bellamy Crane believed the city itself might confuse the people following him. Maya William watched the signal on her laptop from the back of the surveillance van. Every turn appeared as a sharp white line on the map. Every pause looked like a held breath. Helen Morris sat up front, one hand braced against the dashboard, her voice steady over the radio. Do not crowd him. Keep distance. We need him stopped alive, with the device intact. Aaron Pike sat beside Maya, silent now. He had said very little since Leonard Williams' file appeared on the screen. Maybe he understood there were no words for a daughter following the man who had helped steal her father's life. Maybe, for once, the best thing a lawyer could do was not argue. Orrin leaned toward his monitor. Crane's device just connected to another network. Maya's eyes narrowed. Where? Private aviation terminal. Helen turned. He's heading for the airport? Maya followed the route. No. Too obvious. This is a relay. He's trying to transfer the legacy archive before he disappears. The signal stopped moving. A new window opened on Maya's screen. Outbound archive preparation. Destination. Zurich. Private escrow. Maya whispered. He's not running from the city. He's running the evidence out of it. Helen spoke into the radio. All units. Crane is attempting remote transfer. Prepare containment at Private Aviation District. Do not let him board anything. Do not let anyone remove electronic devices from the vehicle. The van turned hard. Maya grabbed the edge of the workstation with one hand and kept typing with the other. The old laptop rattled against the metal shelf, its fan whining under the strain. Somewhere beneath the code and traffic streams, the legacy archive pulsed in fragments. Old cases, old names, old notes written by men who had believed time itself would protect them. Leonard William, Maribel Santos, Calvin Reed, Evelyn Porter, dozens more. Maya opened a containment bridge and pushed it toward Crane's transfer. The escrow system resisted. It had been built for secrecy, for men who moved fortunes without ever touching cash. But secrecy was not magic. It was architecture. And architecture had doors. Oren glanced at her progress bar. You're inside the outer shell. Not inside. At the lock. Can you break it? No. Aaron looked at her. No? Maya did not look up. Breaking it contaminates the evidence. I need him to open it from his side. Helen heard that. So we need him to believe he still has a chance. Yes. The radio crackled. Visual on Crane's vehicle. Black Mercedes, diplomatic-style plates. Entering private terminal service road. Helen said. Hold perimeter. Let him initiate. Aaron's voice was low. You're using his arrogance against him. Maya's fingers moved across the keys. It has been the network's only honest feature. The transfer window blinked. User authentication required. Then another prompt. Chairman biometric key requested. Maya sat very still. He has to touch it, she said. On the radio, an agent whispered. Subject exiting vehicle. Male, elderly, gray suit, carrying leather briefcase. Driver remains inside. Helen said, Do not move yet. Maya watched the authentication panel. A line appeared. Biometric key accepted. He opened it, she said. Oren leaned in. Mirror? Maya pressed enter. The legacy archive began to copy. 4%. 9. 16. On the radio, an agent said, Subject, approaching terminal entrance. Helen's voice stayed calm. Stand by. The mirror reached 28%. Then, Crane's device detected the capture. The screen flashed red. Unauthorized evidence mirror detected. Purge or proceed. Maya's heart kicked once against her ribs. Aaron whispered, What happens now? If he purges, we lose the rest, Maya said. If he proceeds, we get everything. And what will he do? Maya stared at the prompt. He will think he is smarter than the warning. Arthur Crane chose proceed. Maya almost smiled. The mirror jumped to 47%. At the terminal, according to the radio, Crane had stopped near the private entrance. Maybe he had looked down at his device. Maybe he had seen the warning. Maybe he had told himself what men like him always told themselves, that rules were written for people with smaller names. 72%, Helen said. Move on my mark. 81. Crane's transfer accelerated. He was trying to outrun the mirror. Maya pushed the laptop harder, splitting the incoming archive across 2 federal drives. Oren fed her additional storage. The old machine shuddered, its screen flickering once. Don't you dare, Maya whispered. Aaron looked at the laptop. Is she talking to the computer? Yes, Oren said. And it seems appropriate. 93%. Crane's system launched a final purge. Maya caught it with the same preservation wall she had used against Whitlock. But this was older and sharper, built by a mind that had expected betrayal for decades. 96. 97. The purge hit the archive index. For 1 second, every file name disappeared. Maya stopped breathing. Then the backup index rebuilt from the mirrored fragments. 99. Complete. Evidence mirror completed. Maya closed her eyes. Helen said into the radio, Mark, take him. The response came in fragments. Federal agents. Hands visible. Briefcase down. Subject resisting device surrender. Then an older male voice, faint through someone's open mic. Controlled and furious. You people have no authority to touch me. Helen answered, though she was still in the van. They always say that right before the cuffs. A moment later, the radio confirmed it. Arthur Crane. In custody. Device secured. Briefcase secured. No shots fired. The van did not erupt in celebration. There were no cheers, no clapping, no sudden release big enough to match what had just ended. Instead, there was the quiet exhaustion of people who understood that an arrest was only a door. The work waited on the other side. Maya opened the completed archive. The first file was Leonard William. She did not click it at once. Her hands rested beside the keyboard. Aaron spoke softly. "You don't have to read it right now." "Yes," Maya said. "I do." She opened the file. There it was. The full construction of the lie. The false login. The routed payment. The vulnerability profile. The note from Arthur Crane's early group. Subject useful for demonstrating prosecutorial reliability in low-resource fraud matters. Conviction likely. Public resistance minimal. Public resistance minimal. Maya read that line 3 times. Her father had been a man who fixed neighbors' tax forms for free, who carried peppermints in his coat pocket for children at church, who taught his daughter that numbers should tell the truth. To them, he had been minimal resistance. Maya felt the tears come then. Not many. Just enough to honor what had been denied too long. Aaron turned his face away, giving her privacy in the only way the small van allowed. Helen stepped back into the vehicle a few minutes later. She took one look at Maya and said nothing. Instead, she sat across from her and waited. Maya wiped her face with the back of her hand. "We have him?" Helen nodded. "We have him. We have the archive?" "Yes." Maya looked at the screen. "Then we have them." Helen's voice softened. "Yes, we do." 2 weeks later, the first emergency hearing was held in a different courtroom with a different judge. Denise Carter sat in the front row with Marcus on one side and Eli on the other. Alberta sat beside them in her blue church dress, her hand resting on her daughter's knee. Maya sat 2 rows back, not as the center of the room this time, but as a witness to what evidence could do when it finally reached the right hands. Maribel Santos appeared by video from federal custody. She was thinner than her mugshot, older than her years, and when the judge vacated her conviction pending full review, she covered her face and wept without making a sound. Calvin Reed's daughter cried out loud in the hallway when she heard his case would be reopened. Evelyn Porter's release was ordered on medical grounds, while her conviction was examined under the Crane archive. When reporters asked Helen Morris how many cases might be affected, she did not give a number. She said, "Enough to shame us, and enough to keep us working." Judge Raymond Collier resigned before he could be removed. Graham Whitlock lost his license before he lost his freedom. Margaret Vale's name came off every ethics board that had once honored her. Charles Benning's development deals froze across the city, and tenants in Denise's building received notices that the property had been placed under federal review. Arthur Bellamy Crane did not speak to cameras. Men like him rarely did when silence was all they had left to sell. Months later, on a mild Saturday morning, Denise Carter stood in the courtyard of her apartment building while children drew chalk flowers across the pavement. The building was still old. The stairs still creaked. Mrs. Larkin still complained about the mail, but the eviction notices had stopped. The management company had changed, and a tenant's legal fund now operated out of Reverend Cole's church basement. Maya came because Denise asked her to. She arrived without cameras, carrying the old laptop in a canvas bag, and a small framed copy of Leonard Williams' exoneration order under one arm. Denise met her near the courtyard gate. "You brought him?" Denise asked, looking at the frame. Maya nodded. "I thought he should see the place." Denise smiled softly. "He'd be proud of you." Maya looked down at the frame. "I hope so." Marcus ran up holding a paper plate with barbecue chicken and potato salad. "Miss Maya, Mama said you have to eat before you start catching anybody today." Maya took the plate. "Your mother has become very strict. She said justice works better after lunch." Maya looked at Denise. Denise lifted one shoulder. "I said what I said." For the first time in a long while, Maya laughed. Not a large laugh. Not the kind that fills a room. Just a real one. Clean and quiet, with no grief hiding underneath it. Later, after the food and the speeches and Reverend Cole's prayer, Denise stood beside Maya near the courtyard fence. Children chased one another around the tables. Alberta sat with Mrs. Larkin. both of them pretending not to gossip while clearly doing exactly that. Denise said, "Do you ever get tired of chasing the truth?" Maya watched Eli draw a crooked scale in blue chalk on the ground. "Yes." "What do you do then?" "I remember that lies get tired too." Denise nodded. "And justice?" Maya thought of her father, of Maribel, of Calvin, of Evelyn, of the courtroom where a judge had laughed at meaningless numbers until the numbers found his name. "Justice is not always fair," Maya said. "Sometimes it arrives late. Sometimes it arrives bruised. Sometimes it has to crawl through years of paperwork before anyone opens the door. But when people keep carrying it, when they refuse to put it down, it can still get there." Denise looked at her boys. "Then we keep carrying it," she said. Maya nodded. Across the courtyard, Marcus called her name again and waved a piece of cake like evidence. Maya lifted her plate and walked toward him. Behind her, the old apartment building stood in the afternoon light. Not perfect, not safe from every future storm, but still standing, still full of voices, still home. And somewhere inside Maya's bag, beside the laptop that had cracked open a network, Leonard Williams' exoneration rested in a frame at last, not buried in a file, not folded beside an old coffee mug. Seen, remembered, carried forward. The lesson of this story is that truth may be mocked, delayed, or buried beneath power, money, and prejudice, but it does not disappear. Maya Williams' courage reminds us that justice often begins with one person willing to look closer when everyone else has already judged. Denise Carter's story shows how easily the vulnerable can be used by corrupt systems, and how deeply it matters when someone refuses to stay silent. In the end, real justice is not only about punishing the guilty, it is about restoring dignity to the innocent, protecting the forgotten, and making sure no one is treated as invisible simply because they are poor, black, or powerless. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. If it touched your heart, I would truly love to hear your thoughts on the storytelling, the emotional pacing, or whatever stayed with you after listening. Every comment you share helps make the next stories more honest, moving, and meaningful. And if you have a powerful or meaningful story of your own, please do not hesitate to send it to the channel. It may become the next story to touch and inspire thousands of others. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.